Chapter 1888. Even though this mysterious assassin was very skilled at hiding his murderous aura, he was still too naive to think that he could fool everyone. Creak. The half-closed door was gently pushed open, and Dustless was immediately attracted to it. Where have I seen such a ferocious gaze before? Dustless was startled by those deep, wild, beast-like eyes. He didn't think that the assassin was very powerful, but he had a sense of déjà vu as if he had met him somewhere before. Who is it? Dustless lowered his head and guessed. He stroked the black eyebrow in his hand, and the rough texture made his palm a little numb. Could it be? At this moment, a man with a big body, powerful strength, and a terrifying aura suddenly jumped out in Dustless's mind. He was also carrying an extremely exaggerated giant sword. Xingqi of the Nongfu family. His eyes were almost as ferocious and terrifying as the mysterious assassin in front of him. His body was full of deadly oppression, and his piercing eyes made people unable to resist. Creak. At the same time, the half-closed door was completely pushed open, and a ferocious-looking big man suddenly flashed out. Just as Dustless had guessed, the tattooed face was undoubtedly Xingqi. Boy, are your guts made of iron? As soon as he stepped into the room, Xingqi heard the voice that he didn't want to hear in his life. He rushed to the place where the voice came from, and a man with a mocking face suddenly appeared in front of him. Who are you? Xingqi was stunned and found that he didn't know Dustless, although the voice was somewhat familiar. You are still Zichen. Dustless immediately removed the disguise on his face. His current identity was still Zichen of the Confucian school. Do you know me now? After removing the disguise, Dustless stared at Xingqi with a cold expression and sneered. Boy, I let you live last time, but you still dare to assassinate me. Who gave you the courage? Why is it you? Dustless. Xingqi's old face suddenly darkened. In his huge eyes, there was a strong sense of fear. Last time when he was beaten up by Wu Qin, it left an unforgettable impression on him. He would never forget it. You dare to assassinate me. Are you prepared to die? Dustless picked up ink eyebrows and slowly walked towards Xingqi. Wait. Xingqi quickly raised his right arm and explained, I only came to assassinate the third head of the scholarly faction. I didn't know this person was you. Ignorance is blameless. Innocent? Dustless couldn't help but smile. He sneered and said, I say Xingqi, are you here to be funny? Now that you have come to assassinate me, you still dare to say that you are innocent? Zhao Gao ordered me to do this. I didn't know your true identity. Xingqi hated Zhao Gao in his heart. How was he sent to assassinate? He was obviously sent to die. Zhao Gao. In Wu Chen's mind suddenly flashed a man with a deep expression and a cold aura all over his body. He frowned and said, It turns out to be that kid. Xingqi, I can give you a chance to atone for your crime. I will definitely complete it. Xingqi was overjoyed. He decisively forgot Zhao Gao's mission. Last time he blindly challenged Dustless and lost miserably. The overwhelming strength had left a psychological shadow on Xingqi. He couldn't defeat this man who looked very weak on the surface. Help me assassinate Zhao Gao and Li Si, and I will spare your life. Dustless rolled his eyes and said his condition. Assassinate Zhao Gao and Li Si? Xingqi's face changed greatly. He asked in a hoarse voice, You are deliberately making things difficult for me. What will happen if I refuse your condition? Refuse? Dustless's eyes flashed with a deadly red light. He said coldly, Then I will tear you into pieces immediately. Damn it. Xingqi wanted to cry but had no tears. Both sides were big shots that he couldn't afford to offend. Needless to say, Dustless's strength was boundless. Zhao Gao's strength might not be as good as Dustless's, but he had a group of lackeys. Altogether, he was also an existence that Xingqi couldn't afford to offend. Are you still hesitating? Seeing that Xingqi was in a dilemma, Dustless reminded him, If you refuse my condition, you will die here immediately. If you turn to assassinate Zhao Gao, you may still have a chance to live. Besides, have you forgotten who sent you to assassinate me? If it weren't for that culprit, you wouldn't be in a dilemma now. I agree to assassinate Zhao Gao and Li Si. Xingqi lowered his head and hesitated for a while. Then he turned his head and left. Although these words were suspected of sowing discord, it was an undeniable fact. If Zhao Gao hadn't ordered him to assassinate Dustless, today's things would never have happened. All the fault was on Zhao Gao's head. How boring. Dustless sighed. Just as he was about to go to sleep, an unexpected uninvited guest suddenly paid him a visit. The weapon in your hand, is the ink eyebrow? Under the moonlight, the handsome figure's eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. This person's black hair was fluttering in the wind. He held a sharp long sword and stood with his hands behind his back. His puzzled eyes were all focused on the ink eyebrow in Dustless's hand. This guy. Noticing that this person could call out the name Ink Eyebrow, Dustless immediately knew that something was wrong. He glanced sideways and saw Gao Jianli. Give me an explanation. Dustless, where did you get the Ink Eyebrow? This is the inherited weapon of the Mo family's giants. Only the giants of the Mo family can control it. Gao Jianli's tone was as cold as snow. He was keenly aware that he had peeped into a huge conspiracy. The death of the giant Yen Dan probably had a dark inside story that no one knew. It's really troublesome that you found out. Dustless rubbed his temples with a headache. The boiling killing intent disappeared in an instant. Then please go to hell and reunite with Yen Dan. Chapter 1889. Go to hell to continue our relationship? Hearing this, Gao Jianli was stunned at first, then looked at Dustless gloomily and asked in a hoarse voice, that is to say, you admit that you killed the Juzi with your own hands? That's right. I was the one who killed that heartless man. Not denying it, Dustless simply admitted it directly and said, I sent him to heaven with my own hands when I was in Mahist Machine Gate City. You bastard. Gao Jianli was furious, and under the moonlight, his whole body was covered with a layer of cold mist visible to the naked eye. Hee. Seeing this, Dustless casually smiled and waved his hand and said loudly, Don't feel sad, I will free you right away, a dead man will not feel sad. Arrogant. Gao Jianli was furious, and his body was like a shadow with the wind rushing head-on. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The speed of the afterimage was so fast that it was difficult to capture its movement trajectory with the naked eye alone. What Gao Jianli was most adept at was his incomparable speed. It was a complete victory over the enemy with speed. Ridiculous. Dustless lightly raised the ink eyebrow in his hand and said contemptuously, Once I have fought so many enemies, you are the only sad person who wanted to use speed to defeat me. As his voice fell, Dustless's observation hockey quietly spread out, and Gao Jianli, who was as fast as lightning, suddenly appeared. Too slow. Just as the cold Yi Shui was about to pierce his body, the ink eyebrow in his hand fell from the sky and smashed the oncoming attack in one fell swoop. Ka. The attack, which contained the weight of thousands of tons, landed on Gao Jianli's right shoulder. His bones immediately collapsed and a series of cracking sounds were heard. The place hit by the ink eyebrow was badly mutilated, and there was a large pool of blood mixed with white bone fragments, and a shocking dent mark. Bang! His entire right arm was destroyed and Gao Jianli could no longer hold the cold Yi Shui, and instantly fell to the ground. Suffering an unprecedented injury, Gao Jianli's face instantly turned as pale as snow, and his body fell to the ground uncontrollably. The torn wound was extremely painful. You overestimate yourself. Dustless slowly walked over. Looking at the wailing Gao Jianli, he immediately said in disdain, I hate hypocrites like you the most. What chivalrous path of saving the common people? It's all bullshit. To put it bluntly, Yen Dan was just trying to restore his kingdom. He wanted to revive the Yen kingdom for his own selfish desires. Was this saving the common people? The same goes for Zhang Liang. How can a lowly person like you understand the greatness of a tycoon? Even though his right shoulder was shattered and he was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat, Gao Jianli still retorted sarcastically. You think he's great? Upon hearing that, Dustless's lips curled into an almost imperceptible sneer. He asked coldly, Yen Dan abandoned his wife and daughter. He even abandoned his own wife. Is this what it means to be great and noble? It's impossible to have the best of both worlds. In order to overthrow the tyrannical Qin dynasty, necessary sacrifices are inevitable. Gao Jianli answered with an expressionless face. He did not think that Yen Dan had done anything wrong. Is that so? The so-called chivalrous person of the Mo family is abandoning his wife and daughter? What a joke. After all, the Mo family is just a motley crew. You're just too hypocritical. You can't even protect your own wife and daughter, and you keep saying that you want to save the common people. How childish. You're just a hypocritical person. Dustless's words had degraded Yen Dan to be worthless. His eyes became deep and distant as he recalled, I still remember that before Yen Dan died, he told me that he had the ability to save the common people, but chose to turn a deaf ear to it. He is not worthy of being a man. But in my opinion, no matter what excuse he uses, a man who abandons his wife and daughter is not even qualified to be a man. The most ridiculous thing is that the tycoon of the Mo family, Yan Dan, is the biggest stain on his reputation. He kept saying that he was going to overthrow the Qin dynasty to save the common people, but his real identity is the crown prince of the Yan kingdom. I've always had a question. If the Qin dynasty is overthrown one day, who will be the new emperor? Are you sure Yan Dan will not be tempted? Hearing that, Gao Jianli, who was lying on the ground, was speechless. He stuttered for a long time but could not say anything. Suddenly he felt that Dustless's words made some sense. Who could ignore the position of emperor? Moreover, the original Yan Dan was the crown prince of the Yan kingdom. How could he not be tempted by the position of the king of Qin? Only ghosts would know. You're speechless, aren't you, Gao Jianli? Dustless stared at Gao Jianli, who was silent for a while. He sighed and said, in fact, among the 100 schools of thought, everyone is fighting for their own interests. Everyone wants to get a share of the future. It's all for their own ambitions. There's no chivalry to talk about. Don't confuse the Mo family with those vulgar sections. They are not qualified, Gao Jianli said coldly. His eyes were fixed on the ground as if looking at Dustless would dirty his eyes. Then why are you speechless? Lying to yourself will only make you look more guilty. By the way, before you die, I'll tell you a piece of good news for the sake of our past friendship. Of course, it might be a disaster for the Mo family. Dustless lowered his head and whispered into Gao Jianli's ear with a strange smile. Do you still remember the Black Dragon dossier that the Mo family seized a while ago? That's actually the bait that I sent Yueshin and Great Si Ming to throw out. As for the purpose, I'm sure you've already guessed it. It's to catch all the hypocrites of the Mo family in one fell swoop. Chapter 1890. You bastard. Upon hearing this, Gao Jianli, who was still howling in grief, suddenly found the strength to shoot out a strange light from his eyes. He stared at Dustless like a torch. Hee. Seeing Gao Jianli's grief-stricken look, Dustless's interest was immediately piqued. He said with disgust, in the past I saved your Mo clan a few times. Even when Mo clan was in Mechanical City, if it wasn't for me, your Mo clan would have been completely annihilated. So what? Now you have betrayed us. Gao Jianli roared with anger, trying to make himself sound more imposing. However, looking at his miserable look, it only added to his sadness. It was your Mo clan who first cooperated with Wei Zhuang's quicksand. If your Mo clan can turn against us, why can't I? Dustless glanced at Gao Jianli indifferently and said with a sneer, I forgot to tell you. Apart from being the third head of the Confucian school, I also have a special identity, the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. The left guardian of the school of Yin Yang? Upon hearing this, Gao Jianli was dumbfounded. Looking at Dustless, who had an evil smile on his face, he suddenly realized that this man was too terrifying. He had only joined the Confucian school for a few days, but he had already snatched the job of the third head of the school of Yin Yang. Now, he had also snatched the position of Xing Hun, becoming an existence that was second only to Dong Huang Tai and equal to Yueshin. The content of the Black Dragon dossier that you have seized is that on the 18th of next month, the first emperor will go on an inspection tour in the east. Actually, that's not the case. The person who will replace Ying Zheng on the inspection tour is Xing Hun. Dustless's words made Gao Jianli's expression change drastically. His heart was like dead ashes. Damn it. After a while, Gao Jianli was furious. At first, he thought that the method of obtaining the Black Dragon dossier was too simple. The people who were escorting it were only a group of Qin soldiers. It turned out that it was the bait that Dustless had sent out. Let's stop here. You also know that I have always been a kind person. Do you have any last words? Little Gao. Dustless propped his chin on his hand and asked in boredom. Last words? Gao Jianli's eyes suddenly narrowed, focusing on Dustless's body. His ice-cold eyes surged with cruel killing intent. His remaining arm had already reached out to grab the fallen Yi Shui Han. My last words are for you to die with me. As soon as he finished speaking, Gao Jianli grabbed it and stabbed it toward Dustless's eyes. His method was extremely ruthless. Dustless revealed a disdainful expression when he saw this. He focused his gaze on Gao Jianli and murmured sorrowfully, Are your last words for me to take care of the snow ladies? It's really touching. Alright, don't worry and leave it to me. Just die on your own. Hearing this, Gao Jianli was so angry that he almost fell down. The long sword in his hand shook violently. He said furiously, Nonsense. When did I ask you to take care of Schwer? Dustless, don't talk nonsense. Clang, clang, clang. The cold light of the long sword hit Dustless's head. According to common sense, no matter who it was, they would definitely die. However, there are always exceptions in this world. Your Yi Shui Han is too blunt to pierce through me? You will never be able to pierce through my armament hockey. Regardless of Gao Jinli's shocked eyes, Dustless indifferently removed the tip of the sword that pierced his eyelids. Then his eyes began to rotate faster. The raging chill all focused on Gao Jinli's body. Amaterasu. Boundless black flames instantly burned Gao Jinli's body. He howled miserably as the flames devoured and crushed his life force bit by bit. Not even a corpse was left. Mo family's residence hidden deep in the mountains. What, little Gao is dead? Everyone in Mo family looked at the self-blaming figure in disbelief. Everyone's eyes were wide open. At first, everyone thought that Gao Jinli was sulking and went out for a walk. Who would have thought that the result was so absurd? Yes, it's all my fault for being useless. I didn't protect little Gao well. Dustless looked ashamed. He handed the Yi Shui Han in his hand to Snowgirl and swore, "Miss Snowgirl, I swear that even if I have to pay with my life, I will not let you get hurt. This is my last promise to little Gao." Everyone in Mo family was stunned. Snowgirl was the same. She trembled as she grabbed the Yi Shui Han, that was covered in blood. Tears welled up in her eyes. Who killed little Gao? I want to avenge him. A sharp roar filled with endless hatred came from Snowgirl's throat. Her tone was filled with killing intent as if she wanted to be torn to pieces by the culprit. Damn. Do you need to be so scary? Seeing Snowgirl's godlike appearance, Dustless's neck shrank. It was Xing Hun from the Yin Yang school. I saw him throw the corpse into the sea to feed the fish after killing little Gao. Despicable Yin Yang school. Hearing this, everyone in Mo family glared at him. Snowgirl even broke out of the door angrily. It seemed like she was going to seek revenge on Xing Hun from the Yin Yang school. Bam! Dustless flashed behind Snowgirl and knocked her unconscious with a karate chop. Then he carried her to Duanmu Rong and signaled for her to take Snowgirl to rest. Snowgirl challenging Xing Hun alone was no different from setting herself on fire. Wait, there's something wrong with this. At this moment, a doubtful voice sounded. Dustless looked over and sneered in his heart. Zhang Liang? You don't know what's good for you. I've prepared everything. Let's see how high your IQ is. If you can defeat me, a transmigrator, then you can. Chapter 1891. Strange. Zifang, what do you think is strange? Dustless remained calm on the surface, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. This guy always wanted to attack him in various ways, but he always ended up humiliating himself. Yeah. What's strange? Everyone from the Mo family asked doubtfully. Their tone was full of questions. It's nothing strange. Zhang Liang smiled and maintained his gentle and elegant manner. He looked at Dustless and asked, Brother Dustless, where were you at that time? Why do you know so much about it? I heard that you have a marriage alliance with someone from the Yin Yang school. So it's this? Dustless replied calmly. Zifang, I know what you are thinking. I was there when little Gao was killed. What? Dustless's words made everyone from the Mo family widen their eyes. They were already dissatisfied with Dustless and now they were furious. How could this guy be so ruthless? He watched their Mo family members being killed without doing anything. Why are you so heartless? Our Mo family treated you as a friend. De Tai Chue shouted angrily. He wanted to say, our Mo family has treated you well, but sadly he realized that the Mo family didn't provide anything for Dustless at all. In fact, they even implicated Dustless in some aspects. That's right. Why did you stand aside and watch? Master Ban asked with a gloomy face. Not only Master Ban but everyone else also looked at Wu Qin, their eyes full of hostility. Everyone, Dustless smiled calmly and made up a story decisively. He said softly, Gao Jinli attacked the elusive mirage. At that time the 5 elders of the Yin Yang school, 2 guardians and the sect master Donghuang Tai were all there. I was no match for the enemy, so... Is that so? The expressions of the people from the Mo clan loosened slightly. In this way they couldn't resent Wu Qin. Aside from the unfathomable Donghuang Tai, there were 5 elders from the Yin Yang school and 2 protectors. Such a luxurious lineup was enough to crush everything. What a load of nonsense. Zhang Liang coldly snorted in his heart, cursing the Mo family for being foolish. He was sure that there was a secret behind Xiao Gao's death. Why did little Gao go to the mirage to look for Brother Dustless? Zhang Liang was still gentle and elegant, but his words were sarcastic. Little Gao is mature and steady. He definitely wouldn't enter the mirage rashly. This guy. Dustless raised his eyebrows and continued to say calmly, I don't know about that. Maybe it's just spying. I heard from Miss Duanmu that you have obtained the Black Dragon dossier. If you want to crack it, you can only do so with the 1,000 bronze plate. This sentence is really flawless. Zhang Liang frowned. He couldn't find the problem at all. Such a calm answer, as if he had thought about it in advance. However, it was precisely because of this that Zhang Liang was even more certain that there was a conspiracy behind Xiao Gao's death. How could a watertight plan be an unintentional mistake? The fact that Dustless was so calm meant that he had thought about it in advance. That's right. I've already stolen the thing that you want. A round copper plate suddenly appeared on Dustless's right arm. There were all kinds of mysterious words on it. This is the 1,000 bronze plate? Master Ban was overjoyed when he saw this. He didn't care about Dustless taking out the 1,000 bronze plate and snatched it over. He said excitedly, with this item, we'll be able to crack the Black Dragon dossier easily. That's great. Initially, the Mo family members were still suspicious of Dustless. However, when they saw him taking out the 1,000 bronze plate, their doubts disappeared. If he was an enemy, there was no need for him to take out the 1,000 bronze plate. I can only say that it's a pity about Xiao Gao's death. Master Ban sighed and said in a deep voice, it will take a lot of time to defeat the Qin dynasty. Everyone please be careful in the future. You only have one life. We'll look for Xing Hun in the future for Xiao Gao's life. A bunch of idiots. Dustless snickered in his heart. This groundless accusation was completely placed on Xing Hun's head. Sigh. Zhang Liang sighed helplessly. He was caught off guard by Gao Jinli's sudden death. Originally, everyone was discussing how to assassinate Dustless and Xiao Ximing on their wedding day. Gao Jinli was full of praise for this plan. Now that he was dead, Zhang Liang didn't know if the Mo family would give up on this plan. Creak. The door of the quiet room was gently pushed open. Duanmu Rong looked over and nodded slightly when she saw that it was Dustless. How is Miss Xue? Dustless lowered his head and looked at Xuenu who was lying on the sickbed. He asked, she doesn't look well. Will there be any major problems? She's just severely injured. Duanmu Rong shook her head and said worriedly, you know the relationship between Xiao Gao and Xuenu Sai, it's hard to estimate the impact of Xiao Gao's death on Xuenu. I hope she doesn't have any other ideas? Ideas? Dustless was stunned when he heard this. With Xuenu's personality, she might really assassinate Xing Hun on her own. Leave it to me. Dustless gestured to Duanmu Rong not to worry. He comforted her and said, the past will always be the past. Since Xiao Gao asked me to take care of Xuenu, I can't let anything happen to her. When he said this, Wu Qin couldn't help but blush. After all, he was the one who killed Gao Jinli. All right. I have something to ask you. Duanmu Rong blinked a few times and looked at Dustless with a hint of resentment in her eyes. Don't tell me. Suddenly thinking of something, Dustless's face was embarrassed. Chapter 1892. It was impossible to hide the marriage between Dustless and young Master Ming, especially since Zhang Liang was involved. It was impossible to fool him. You and young Master Ming of the Yinyang school have a marriage alliance? Duanmu Rong's tone had a hint of complaint and sadness. She and Dustless had known each other for longer than anyone else, but the ending seemed to be a little funny. What made Duanmu Rong feel even more depressed was that someone else had beat her to it. Hearing this, Dustless was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, yes, this marriage was proposed by Donghuang Tai of the Yinyang school. The head of the Confucian school, Fun Yan, also agreed. I am now the third head of the Confucian school. The atmosphere fell into a strange silence. Both Duanmu Rong and Dustless found it difficult to speak. After all, some things could not be easily solved with fists. Things that needed to be solved with words were often more troublesome and troublesome. Speaking of which, how is Sherlan, who I brought last time? After a moment of silence, Dustless took the lead and said, I have brought her brother, Yuziki, out. Sherlan? Hearing this, Duanmu Rong paused for a moment, then nodded and said, she is almost awake. In a few days she can get out of bed and walk. Thank you, Duanmu Rong. If you have any trouble, you can find me to solve it. For some reason, at the end of his sentence, Wu Qin suddenly changed his words. When he realized what he had said, he was stunned. Everything seemed to be an instinctive reaction. Dustless was not sure how it felt. No need to thank me, it's okay. Duanmu Rong nodded slightly, but a strange light flashed in her eyes. That. Duanmu Rong remembered Master Ban's previous suggestion. She could only helplessly muster up her courage and said, Master Ban, I hope that you and I... Before her voice fell, Duanmu Rong's cheeks turned red. She was obviously shy. Could it be? Dustless smiled bitterly as he recalled the character of a certain old man. He immediately understood what Duanmu Rong wanted to say. With a strange expression he said, that old man, could it be that he wishes for us to be together? To tell you the truth, that is my intention, including the others. Duanmu Rong nodded with difficulty. Finally, she lowered her head with a sickly red face. At the same time she felt rather desolate. She had always been loyal to the Mo family and did not dare to be careless in the slightest. However, she did not expect that the Mo family would use her as a tool. That old man really has a lot of rotten ideas. He really put in a lot of effort to rope me in. Dustless sighed in his heart. He rolled his eyes unnaturally and said seriously, Rong, I'm not a good person. I'm worse than you think. However, if you're really willing to give yourself to me, I'm willing to do my best. I don't mind telling you directly. Perhaps, just as Zhang Liang is worried, I might be harmful to the Mo family in the future. If it was someone else, Dustless would naturally not empathize with their feelings. The winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. It was the nature of the game for the loser to be robbed. There was no need to empathize with other people's feelings. Only the one with the bigger fist had the right to change the game. However, Duanmu Rong was different. The reason why Dustless chose to be honest with her was because she was the one who saved him on the first day he came to this world. Although it was unnecessary, after a series of changes, Dustless realized that he had completely fallen in love with her. Dustless could deceive others. After all, he had always defined himself as a villain. As for Duanmu Rong, he only wanted to have a clear conscience. Dustless did not want to use any tricks. Dustless looked at Duanmu Rong quietly, waiting for her answer. At the same time, there was an uproar in another direction. B****, you damn guy. What are you trying to do? Have you forgotten who let you out of prison? Now you're biting the hand that feeds you. The night was dark and the wind was strong. Murder and arson were everywhere. On such a beautiful night, another good show was playing out somewhere else. Li Si, you sinister villain. I'll kill you first, then I'll kill Zhao Gao. Sheng-Chi waved his crude great ravager and killed all the reinforcements who rushed over. His pair of tiger-like glasses made Li Si tremble in fear. He was so scared that he almost peed in his pants. Fortunately, my neck is still here. Li Si touched his head. After realizing that his neck was still there, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was not easy for him to get to the position of the Prime Minister. If he was killed by Shang-Chi, it would be a tragedy. Don't worry, it'll be gone soon. Shang-Chi smiled ferociously. His face was filled with hatred and disgust. It was because of this bastard that he went to assassinate the third head of the Confucian school. His real identity was Dustless, the super evil star. Last time he was beaten up by Dustless. It was not easy for him to survive. Now Li Si and Zhao Gao pushed him into the pit again. He was almost killed by Dustless. How could Shang-Chi not be angry? I've treated you so well. How dare you assassinate me? B****, I'll tear you into pieces if I find out. Li Si warned angrily. You won't have the chance. Shang-Chi smiled cruelly. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he slowly walked towards Li Si. As everyone knew, Li Si was a civil official. Although he was the Prime Minister of the Empire, his strength was not even comparable to an ordinary soldier. Chapter 1893. Realizing that he was forced into a desperate situation, Li Si was furious. He was the Prime Minister, but he was forced into such a difficult situation by an assassin. The prestige of the Prime Minister had been thrown away. Shang-Chi, don't do anything rash. Let's talk nicely. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to leave here alive. At the crucial moment, Li Si still gave up. He couldn't accept dying in such a humiliating way. I can only live if I kill you. If I keep you alive, I will definitely die. Shang-Chi sneered. This Li Si really thought that he was a kid who didn't know anything. For someone like Li Si who was so powerful, you should either kill him to prevent future troubles, or never offend him. Especially the words that Li Si said just now, Shang-Chi treated it like a fart. Li Si was a politician and politicians had always been masters at talking. Their tricks of fooling people were unfathomable, and their promises were worthless. Go to hell. Shang-Chi's huge body leaped up and swung his great sword, Great Ravager. Puchi. Li Si, who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, was no match for Shang-Chi. A bloody hole appeared on his chest. Shang-Chi noticed that although the wound on Li Si was bleeding, it was shallow and not fatal. It couldn't take Li Si's life at all. As for the reason, damn it. Shang-Chi continued to exert his strength, wanting to pierce through Li Si's chest. However, he noticed that there was a cold figure standing in front of Juk. Zhao Gao. Shang-Chi's pupils shrank. This mysterious man with an evil aura was the boss of the trap, Zhao Gao. Shang-Chi, I asked you to assassinate Ziqin. Who would have thought that you would become so powerful? You actually came to assassinate the Prime Minister and even hurt him. Your cheap life is not as good as the Prime Minister's even if you die 100 times. Zhao Gao's eyes emitted a dangerous light. Shang-Chi, who was being stared at, felt a strong pressure. If Shang-Chi was an awe-inspiring tiger that could be said to be invincible, then Zhao Gao was an unfathomable hunter. He only had one attitude towards this beast that was struggling on the verge of death: contempt. Retreat for now. Looking at Zhao Gao and Li Si with hatred in his eyes, Shang-Chi decisively chose to retreat. If the 6 sword slaves came, he would be dead for sure. The moonlight was like a plate and the sky was dotted with stars. Dustless and Duanmu Rong sat side by side peacefully on the roof of the thatched hut. The atmosphere was harmonious as they looked up at the sky. Sometimes I really envy the stars in the sky. They can live a carefree life for the rest of their lives. It's so comfortable. Duanmu Rong rested her chin on her hands, looking forward to the future. There's nothing to be envious about. Dustless said calmly, a carefree life can frighten others, but the price is the loneliness of being isolated from the world. Everything has its pros and cons. What we see is often the most beautiful side. You're right. Duanmu nodded his head and sighed. He naturally understood the meaning behind Dustless's words. As one of the few commanders of the Mo family, there was no need to doubt his intelligence. Are you saying that the Mo family is the same as the stars in the sky? Dustless didn't answer. He just said to himself, in a chaotic world, it's good to have enough to eat and drink. The future of chivalry is uncertain in this era. It's too extravagant for ordinary people who can't even fill their stomachs. If they can't even fill their stomachs, who has the time to talk about chivalry? Don't you think it's childish? You. Hearing this, Duanmu Rong rolled her eyes at Dustless and muttered, you seem to be saying that the Mo family was born in the wrong era? Exactly. Dustless admitted frankly. Then he narrowed his eyes and recalled his life in his previous life. He vaguely remembered that in the 21st century, even though Qin Shi Huang burned books and destroyed Confucianism, Confucianism was still preserved. It was the same for the other sects in the 100 schools of thought. For example, Taoism, legalism, military, medicine, and other sects were still preserved in the era before Dustless transmigrated. Only the Mo family wasn't there. The fundamental reason was that the existence of everything had a certain rigid requirement. The Mo family emphasized non-aggression and universal love. These political ideas were not the same as the ancient emperors. Therefore, the side that was attacked would prefer the Mo family. It was better for them to make peace. However, as the attacking side, they wouldn't be able to take the cities and benefits. That was impossible. Therefore, the Mo family still had a certain value in the spring and autumn warring states period. However, this value didn't mean much after Qin unified the world. Human sovereign Qin's legalism. Therefore, there was the burning of books and the destruction of Confucianism. The books that were burned contained the thoughts of the Mo family. This basically cut off the Mo family's path of retreat. It wasn't until the emperor of the unified Han dynasty, Emperor Wu of Han, dismissed the 100 schools of thought and only respected Confucianism. From this era to the next 2,000 years, the Mo family gradually faded away until it was completely wiped out. At this moment, Dustless suddenly felt his knees become much heavier. He looked down and saw Duanmu Rong lying on his knees with a lazy expression. You'll catch a cold if you sleep here. Sensing that the weather was getting colder, Dustless couldn't help but remind her. A cold? Duanmu Rong smiled and pouted her thin lips playfully. I'm the Mo family's medical sage. How can I catch a cold? You're underestimating me. If you don't believe me, you can take my pulse. You can't say that. The words that were about to come out of his mouth suddenly stopped. Dustless's eyes turned. He sensed that Duanmu Rong's words had a hidden meaning. Thinking about it carefully, there were other meanings worth guessing. Where could he take her pulse? Of course, it couldn't be on a cold night. Duanmu Rong was hinting that he should send her back to her room. Wu Qin smiled faintly. He jumped up and carried Duanmu Rong to the ground and went back to the room. When a girl asked you to send her home, it meant that the wood had already been turned into a boat and the raw rice could be cooked into rice. Chapter 1894. The ancients' way of thinking is really troublesome sometimes. Seeing Duanmu Rong with her eyes closed and her face red, Dustless could only sigh that she was too reserved. If he wasn't an old fox who had lived for hundreds of years, he might have missed this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After all, the meaning Duanmu Rong wanted to express was too vague. Confucius said, "Food and lust are human nature." Mencius said, Confucius said. The general meaning was, food and drink, men and women. One was a matter of life and the other was a matter of sex. The so-called food and drink was a matter of people's livelihood. Men and women were matters of health and pleasure. Life couldn't be separated from these two things. Both were necessary for human survival. It was enough to show that the ancients were far more open-minded than imagined. Especially since this sentence was said by Confucius, then Dustless, as the third master of the little sage manor, had to follow the meaning of the sage. Crack. Dustless broke in, threw Duanmu Rong on the bedding and violently tore her clothes. Duanmu Rong's face was red and she felt cold, but her eyes were still closed. Her hands tightly grasped the bedding, and she looked very nervous and flustered. But it was worth mentioning that she didn't resist and didn't even say a word. Obviously, Duanmu Rong acquiesced to Dustless's next actions. It's just as I guessed. Dustless was secretly pleased. Seeing Duanmu Rong's pink and shy cheeks, she seemed to be very embarrassed. Huff! Taking a deep breath, Dustless was about to tear down the last barrier between himself and Duanmu Rong, but unfortunately the ear-piercing voice that made him vomit blood instantly echoed in his ears. Although the pleasant voice was very pleasant and very gentle, Dustless's heart was burning wildly, and he had an impulse to kill. He angrily turned his head and saw a stunned Shirlan. She was staring blankly at Duanmu Rong, who was lying on the bedding with her clothes torn, and Dustless, whose face was like a black pot. Did I disturb the two of you? If I have offended you, please forgive me. Shirlan's soft face flushed red, and she finally understood why Dustless was glaring at her with gritted teeth. Motherf *Ker, you're not just guilty, you should be struck by lightning. Do you know what it means to have a night of love worth 1,000 gold? You should go to hell for interrupting others. Wu Chen's heart was filled with 100,000 alpaca army. His cheeks were twitching wildly. When Duanmu Rong sensed Shirlan's presence, she hurriedly covered her face with her hands. At the same time she said in an extremely embarrassed manner, Shirlan, don't misunderstand. It's not what you think. In the end, Duanmu Rong, you have found it hard to continue. She glared at Dustless fiercely as if saying, all the mistakes were caused by you, the jinx. It's an unlucky year. Dustless became even more depressed when he saw this. He looked at Shirlan with a resentful expression, like a resentful woman who was in her room, causing goosebumps to rise all over Shirlan's body. By the way, I forgot, you should take the medicine. Duanmu Rong showed an apologetic look, and then left with Shirlan. In the dark room, only Dustless was left with a bitter face. Fate likes to play tricks on people like this. After a moment of silence, Dustless exhaled heavily, and the flame in his heart gradually extinguished. Anyway, his relationship with Duanmu Rong has been indirectly made clear. That layer of window paper will be broken sooner or later, it's just a matter of time. It's almost time to let that kid out. His pupils suddenly turned, revealing Scarlet Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Dustless shouted. Kemue. Ka ka ka. The void in front of him cracked like a mirror, and a miniature vortex gradually enlarged, spreading to the surrounding space, and finally turned into a large black hole, and then a black shadow swept out from it. Go to hell. The moment this mysterious black shadow flashed, it launched an indiscriminate attack on Dustless, and its stone-like fist directly smashed towards Dustless's face. It's better for you to put away your punches. Easily catching the incoming fist, Dustless explained, Yuziki, don't you want to see your sister? She has been waiting for you. Yu Inyang School's lackey. Who would have thought that after Dustless's words fell, Yuziki not only showed no signs of stopping, but also attacked more fiercely. Although his right hand was subdued by Dustless, his free left fist swept towards the side. Your brother? The familiar and intimate voice caused Yuziki's movements to stop instantly. He turned his head to look at the source of the voice, and what he saw was Shirlan's excited face. Shirlan was about to eat Duanmu Rong's elixir, but who would have thought that there would be a noise coming from Dustless's side? She and Duanmu Rong hurried over, but the troublemaker was not an enemy, but her brother, whom Shirlan had been worried about. Little you, Shirlan, do you know this Inyang School's lackey? Yuziki was surprised and happy, and at the same time he stared at Dustless fiercely. The contrast between his attitude before and after was not flattering. Your attitude changed so fast. Yuzuki, is this how you talk to your savior? Dustless poured himself a cup of tea and said lazily, if it weren't for me, you would have become Yun Zhongjuan's meal now. He is very interested in you. What do you mean? Yuzuki frowned and asked in puzzlement. When they were on the Mirage, Dustless directly used a strange move to swallow him into a mysterious space without saying goodbye. Therefore Yuzuki labeled Dustless as an enemy. Chapter 1895. What do you mean? Dustless looked at Yuzuki sympathetically. Smart all your life but stupid this time. This sentence was not false at all. Why did Yun Zhongjuan capture you? You should know this better than me, right? Dustless sat on the chair and explained, you were made into the leader of the medicine men by Yun Zhongjuan. Seeing Yuzuki's confused expression, Dustless knew what had happened. Yun Zhongjuan had turned Yuzuki into a medicine man previously, causing this fellow's memory to be blurred. He had probably forgotten everything that had happened before. The only thing he remembered was probably Sherlan. The two of you can catch up for the time being. Sherlan, don't forget to take your medicine. Seeing the excited siblings, Dustless also pulled Duanmu Rong away. The siblings were catching up. If he and Duanmu Rong, two outsiders, joined in, wouldn't it cause gossip? Is that Sherlan's brother? After glancing at Yuzuki, Duanmu Rong looked at Dustless in surprise and said meaningfully, I heard that Yun Zhongjuan has an extraordinary status in the Yinyang school. Since you can get someone from him, it seems that your status in the Yinyang school is not low either. It's more than not low. At this point, Wuxia could not help but feel proud of himself. He raised a finger and said, I've only gone to the Yinyang school on the first day, and I've already snatched Xinghun's position. I'm the left guardian now. Let's not talk about this for now. You must have noticed something, right? Duanmu Rong suddenly narrowed her eyes and said with great concern, I keep feeling that Zhang Liang of the Confucian school is deliberately targeting you. Don't tell me you don't realize it. Of course I know this. Dustless held Duanmu Rong's little hand. The latter did not resist. Since the relationship between the two of them had been made clear, Duanmu Rong would not reject Dustless. Instead, she felt very comfortable being held by Dustless. That brat's identity as the third master was snatched by me especially. Dustless sneered and said disdainfully, Zhang Liang wholeheartedly wanted to pull the Confucians into the anti-Qin alliance, but because of my sudden rise, the Confucians and the Yinyang school temporarily formed an alliance, and Zhang Liang's plan became a distant dream. Naturally, that kid hates me to death. Dustless was extremely clear about this. There was no possibility of reconciliation between him and Zhang Liang. Speaking of which, when you went to the Yinyang school, did you see you, Thinking of you, Duanmu Rong's voice became several times louder. In this world, the only people she still cared about were you, and Dustless. As for the people of the Mo family, Duanmu Rong's heart was gradually filled with despair. Ever since Master Ban said that he would sacrifice himself to win over Dustless, Duanmu Rong's feelings for the Mo family had become indifferent. Maybe it's just like what you said. Being anti-Qin will only make the world more chaotic. Duanmu Rong saw it lightly, and her hatred for the Qin state dissipated a lot. Rong, actually there's a problem that I don't understand. Dustless raised his eyebrows and said doubtfully, Gao Jinli hates the Qin state because his elder brother Jianghu was killed by the Qin state. As for your reason? Do you still need to say this? Glancing at Dustless impatiently, Duanmu Rong said bluntly, once you enter a noble family you are as deep as the ocean. Ever since the previous great son Yen Dan became a great son, the Mo family began to target the Qin state. I was also affected. The Mo family was not like this in the past. That's true. Dustless's eyes suddenly brightened. Only then did he remember a big thing that he had forgotten. He immediately sneered and said, Yen Dan, that guy, is really not a good person. Hearing this, Duanmu Rong's watery eyes widened slightly. She looked extremely dissatisfied. After all, he was a dead person. Rong, don't you think it's strange? The great son of the Mo family before Yen Dan, six-fingered black man, did not intend to go against the Qin state when he was still a great son. In fact, the period of six-fingered black man and the period of Yen Dan were completely different. Six-fingered black man firmly believed in the non-aggressive way, and had no interest in opposing the Qin state. When he was still a great son, the Mo family had always maintained a neutral position. However, it was obviously different when Yen Dan was still a great son. They had turned from a neutral camp to opposing the Qin state and were always targeting the Qin state. Don't tell me. Six-fingered black man was killed by Yen Dan's conspiracy? Duanmu Rong looked at Dustless anxiously. Noticing her abyss-like terrifying eyes, she suddenly felt a little scared. Do you think it's impossible? Some people want Six-Fingered Black Man to die earlier. After he died, Yen Dan would become the new great son of the Mo family. As the crown prince of the Yen kingdom, he would definitely oppose the Qin state. This is beneficial for some people, isn't it? Dustless looked at Duanmu Rong calmly and then said something shocking. The culprit who killed Six-Fingered Black Man was actually concubine Yen of the school of Yinyang. She is also Yu Er's mother and Yen Dan's wife. At first, Yen Dan had been trying to persuade Six-Fingered Black Man to join the anti-Qin alliance. However, Six-Fingered Black Man was not interested. Wasn't it suicidal for a sect to want to fight against the power of a country? Six-Fingered Black Man was not wrong. However, concubine Yen, who was deeply in love with Yen Dan, wanted to fulfill her husband's long-cherished wish. She used the Six Souls Fear curse, and directly caused Six-Fingered Black Man's death. How do you know these secrets? Duanmu Rong was shocked. Even she, the commander of the Mo family, didn't know about this. However, Dustless knew so clearly. Don't forget my current identity. I am the left guardian of the school of Yinyang. My status is on par with the moon goddess and only second to Dong Huangtai. Wu Qin casually found a reason to prevaricate. This was completely nonsense. How did he know Six-Fingered Black Man was killed by concubine Yen? This was a benefit that the time-traveling party thought was a foresight. Chapter 1896. Duanmu Rong wanted to argue, but she found herself speechless. Yen Dan had been trying to persuade the Mo family to join the anti-Qin alliance, but Six-Fingered Black Warrior was not interested. Then, Six-Fingered Black Warrior died suddenly, and the leader of the Mo family was replaced by Yen Dan. The person who killed Six-Fingered Black Warrior was Yen Dan's wife, concubine Yen. Are you saying that Yen Dan instigated concubine Yen to kill Six-Fingered Black Warrior? Duanmu Rong clenched her fists with a complicated expression. If that was the case, then the Mo family was much more sinister than she thought. I didn't say that. It's all your own guess. Wu Qin shrugged and drew a clear line at once. He said frankly, I don't know whether it was Yen Dan who instigated it or not. But there's one thing I'm 100% sure about. The person who secretly plotted to kill Six-Fingered Black Warrior is concubine Yen. I'm telling you the truth because I want you to understand. Dustless paused for a moment and said in a low voice, no organization, no force is clean. Where there's light, there's darkness. This will never change. Everyone in the world has their own selfishness. It's human nature to fight for benefits. Besides, the word organization itself is derogatory. Then why did you join the Yinyang school? Duanmu Rong changed the topic and pointed the contradiction at Dustless. She said faintly, I heard that young Master Ming is so beautiful that you lost your sense of direction, right? Am I the kind of person who's lustful? Wu Qin rolled his eyes when he heard this, and then he chuckled and replied with a question. Of course, perhaps I've really been bewitched by young Master Ming to the point of being unable to find my bearings, but I still found you. What does this mean? Even if I'm coaxed by young Master Ming, the one who really occupies the most important place in my heart is still you. Loquacious. No one will believe such childish words. Duanmu Rong snorted softly and turned her head away. Even though she said so, Dustless could clearly see the bright light that flashed in the depths of her eyes. Just now, Shirlan ruined all the good things for me. This time I must take it back with interest. Staring at Duanmu Rong's plump figure, Wu Chen's heart was itching. Rong, it's getting late. Let's go and rest. Dustless stood in front of Duanmu Rong with a flattering smile on his face. He said, You said you wanted me to take your pulse, right? I have indeed discovered that you are not feeling well. Let me take a look at you. After saying that, Wu Qin grabbed Duanmu Rong's arm with both hands. However, Duanmu Rong impolitely slapped Dustless's hand away and said angrily, Pulse? I'm really sorry, but after being frightened by Shirlan, my body has already recovered. Damn it. Hearing this, Dustless wanted to cry but had no tears. He could not help but curse in his heart. It's too easy for Shirlan to go to hell. That damn girl dared to disturb my good deed. It's not too much for her to go through the 18 levels of hell. How dare she ruin my good deed? No. Dustless shook his finger as an idea came to him. I see that your glabella is black and there is a surge of black gas between your eyebrows. You are obviously sick. Glabella is black and there is a surge of black gas between my eyebrows? Hearing this, Duanmu Rong was stunned for a moment. She touched her eyebrows with her right arm and asked suspiciously, "The symptoms you are talking about, are you poisoned?" This is not important. Anyway, you only need to know that such a terrible condition can only be treated by me." Dustless then remembered that Duanmu Rong was called the fairy doctor. He quickly corrected himself and said, "Sick and poisoned are the same. A small illness can develop into a serious illness. A small dike can destroy 1,000 miles of dike. Narrow cracks are often caused by indulgence. You must be treated as soon as possible." "Is it as serious as you say?" Duanmu Rong was even more suspicious. Frankly speaking, she was not feeling well recently, but she always thought it was caused by overwork. "So, let's go back to the room now and let me take your pulse." Dustless finished his words and dragged Duanmu Rong to the cottage. A doctor can treat others but he can't treat himself. This kind of thing must be done by me. Duanmu Rong was hesitant. Seeing Dustless's resolute expression, she finally complied with his wish. However, as soon as she stepped into the room with Dustless, Duanmu Rong instantly regretted it. Dustless first pretended to be reserved, then finally made a shameful request. Did taking the pulse need to be done all over the body? Duanmu Rong expressed that she, the fairy doctor, didn't know, but the arm couldn't twist the leg. In the end, Dustless revealed the most primitive side of a living creature, breaking the window between him and Duanmu Rong, and the two completely merged into one. Dustless took away her most precious thing inexplicably. At first, Duanmu Rong was very resistant. However, as the saying goes, the devil is 10. After all, Dustless was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. In addition to his terrifying strength, he was also a profound talker. Under the attack of sweet words and flowery words, Duanmu Rong finally threw away her helmet and threw in the towel. Moreover, the two originally admired each other before, but the ancient people were thin-skinned. If he waited for Duanmu Rong to open her mouth, he would have to wait until the next life. Anyway, Dustless's skin was as thick as the city wall, so it didn't hurt to take the initiative to open her mouth. The next morning when they woke up, it was already late in the morning. Last night, for the sake of safety, Dustless painfully set up a barrier, so that Dustless and Duanmu Rong hugged each other to sleep without being disturbed. When they woke up, the sun was already burning their buttocks. "It's all your fault." Duanmu Rong angrily threw a pillow at Dustless's face. She found that she was staggering when she walked, and her face couldn't help but become a little hot. On that jade face there was still a lingering lust. Chapter 1897. Dustless did not mind. Duanmu Rong had suffered a great loss, so it was only right for him to take advantage of her verbally. "How is Shirlan's poison?" "She seems to be fine." Dustless asked as he put on his clothes. "Yes, she is almost fully recovered." "Are you going to bring her away?" Duanmu Rong also wore her clothes with difficulty. Compared to Wu Chen, who was full of vigor, she who was tormented for a night, her whole body was filled with indescribable exhaustion. Her bones were sore and soft, and even standing up had pressure. "You should continue to rest. If you have to put on your clothes, why don't I help you?" Smack. Dustless had just reached out his hands when Duanmu Rong slapped them away. "You don't know how to be romantic at all. How nice it would be to go back to sleep again." Dustless pursed his lips and retracted his hands unhappily. At the same time, Duanmu Rong had also put on her clothes and tidied up her appearance. Dustless then removed the outer boundary. A figure that had been waiting for a long time appeared in front of them. "Snow Lady?" Wu Chen and Duanmu Rong looked at each other. They were very surprised. Seeing her anxious look, they guessed that she had been waiting for a long time. "Dustless, you have to do me a favor." Seeing Dustless and Duanmu Rong walk out of the room, the Snow Lady completely ignored Duanmu Rong's existence and pounced on them. "Help me kill Xinghan. I will do anything you want." "Of course." Looking at the Snow Lady with dark circles under her eyes, Wu Chen guessed that she must have been so upset that she didn't sleep the entire night. Wu Chen couldn't help but feel ashamed. After all, he was the mastermind behind Gao Jianli's death. As for Xinghan, he was the scapegoat. But Dustless paused for a moment as he recalled his plan. He continued, "It will be difficult for me to do it in the near future. Anyway, I will definitely help you kill Xinghan in the future." "Thank you." Only then did a hint of joy appear on the Snow Maiden's haggard face. Gao Jinli's sudden death was a huge blow to her. "Snow Lady, you have to learn to be strong. If Xinghan finds out that he killed Gao Jinli, and you also become muddle-headed and despairing, that fellow will laugh even in his dreams. Dustless reminded him sternly and shamelessly pushed everything to Xing Hun. You're right. I can't continue to feel down. The Snow Lady's body shook when she heard this. She gritted her teeth and said, I must settle the score with that bastard Xing Hun. That would be great. Dustless nodded. After that, he gazed at the scorching sun in the blue sky. He suddenly realized that it was getting late, and he gave the Snow Maiden a few more words of encouragement before he left. As for the group of people from Mo clan, Lu Sha from Wei Zhuang and other anti-Qin forces, they were all discussing a plan to deal with Ying Zheng. Ever since Old Ban had deciphered the Black Dragon Scroll, everyone had learned of its contents. On the 18th of next month, the first emperor would tour the east. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the anti-Qin alliance naturally wouldn't let it go so easily. After a series of planning, a meticulous plan was quietly completed. Zhang Liang even forgot about Dustless's question. However, what they didn't know was that this was just a bait for Dustless to annihilate them. The first emperor's tour of the east was also a lie. The person who would replace Ying Zheng was Xing Hun. This was also the main reason why Dustless didn't want to kill Xing Hun at the moment. Dustless strolled along the crowded streets alone. Xingqi? I've heard of this fellow before. He's very powerful. He's been imprisoned many times, but he always managed to escape. So what? He's still a stray dog now. He actually dared to assassinate the Prime Minister, Li Si. He's got guts. 1 million taels of gold. The price of this bounty is really sky-high. Dustless saw a large number of people gathering in front of him. Out of curiosity he walked over. The bounty of Xingqi and the crazy price immediately appeared before his eyes. His head is worth 1 million taels of gold? So expensive? After glancing at it, Dustless felt strange and left. He thought to himself, Li Si is the Prime Minister of the Qin Kingdom. He's second only to the Prime Minister. Only by successfully assassinating him can one get such a sky-high price. However, it was worth mentioning that Li Si might have really been angered this time. Not only was Xingqi wanted, but even the sect he used to belong to, the Farmer sect, was also wanted. However, there were many disciples of the Farmer sect, and it was impossible for all of them to be wanted. Only some of the important leaders had become criminals with a huge bounty. Seriously? I've gotten the Yellowstone Heavenly Book that Linger asked me to, but I still haven't found the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. On the quiet path, Dustless sighed in annoyance. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book had been given to Sun Zi of the Confucian school for reference. As for the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, Dustless still hadn't found them. Wu Chen's footsteps suddenly stopped and he glanced back. Suddenly, a sneer appeared on his face. Still not coming out? If you can deceive me with such a concealment skill, do you think I can still be alive? Cough, cough. After a long silence, the burly man who was coughing violently walked out of the alley. Looking at him carefully, it was Xingqi who was full of wounds. According to the agreement, I assassinated Zhao Gao. He was injured, but unfortunately he didn't die. Xingqi was quite miserable at the moment. His body was full of wounds. You have to provide me a place to recover, or I will tell others that Zichen is Dustless. Seeing Dustless was silent, Xingqi threatened loudly. Your injuries are caused by being hunted down, right? Dustless sneered. The light in his hand floated, and the heavenly sword of gathering clouds was compressed in an instant. His body flashed, and under Xingqi's surprised gaze, he turned into a streamer and appeared in front of him instantly. Puchi. The light that swept out cut Xingqi's head into pieces. Blood gushed out from his neck. Xingqi probably didn't even know how he died. The speed was too fast. He didn't even have the chance to draw his sword. You are just a chess piece. How dare you threaten me? Chapter 1898. The light that swept out forcefully chopped off Xingqi's head. Blood immediately gushed out from his neck. Xingqi probably didn't even know how he died. It was too fast. He didn't even have the chance to draw his sword. You're just a chess piece. How dare you threaten me? Dustless didn't even look at Xingqi's corpse as he left. Xingqi was simply too stupid. If Dustless was Xingqi, he would simply find a place to hide. From then on, he wouldn't care about the complicated matters of the world and could still live freely. However, Xingqi was too stupid. He had to find Dustless to die and even threaten Dustless. He was a typical example of someone who didn't want to live. Amaterasu. Dustless suddenly stopped walking. He turned his head and Xingqi's corpse instantly burned with black flames. The corpse quickly evaporated until it was reduced to ashes. Amaterasu then disappeared. Shang-Chi had also completely disappeared from this world. Inside the Sage Manor, Dustless was enjoying the beautiful scenery. The cool breeze was extremely comfortable. He was leisurely strolling around the pavilions. Now that Dustless was the third head of the Confucian school, no one dared to gossip about him. You too, raising his eyebrows slightly, Wuxia saw two suspicious figures not far away. Then he called out softly. Ziming Ziyu, what are you two doing? Dustless, who was standing with his hands behind his back, slowly walked over. He discovered that these sneaky Confucian disciples were Tianming and Xiaoyu. In the Confucian school, their current identities were Ziming and Ziyu. Dustless? As one of the few people who knew Dustless's identity, Tianming and Xiaoyu were quite surprised. The two of them opened their mouths and were about to explain when Dustless gave them a slap. Slap slap. You two brats, you have to call me third master in the future. Do you understand? Dustless's face was filled with pride. His eyes were filled with threats and teasing. You bastard. Xiaoyu and Tianming were both enraged when they heard that. Just when they were about to flare up, Dustless glared at them viciously. They could only suppress their discomfort and obediently say, Greetings, third teacher. The two of them felt particularly sullen and depressed. Not long ago, Dustless had been of the same generation as them. Now he had suddenly become their third grandmaster. Just thinking about it made Tianming and Xiaoyu feel stifled. The gap between them was just too great. Very good. Seeing this, Dustless nodded in satisfaction. Then he followed the direction that the two of them were looking at. Who is that? Dustless was surprised to find that a beautiful woman, wearing a palace dress, was talking to the leader of the scholarly faction, but because the distance was too far, he could only see a vague outline. As a last resort, Dustless revealed the Tensigan, allowing him to see everything within a radius of 50 kilometers. Even the slightest movement in the wind and grass could be seen clearly. Concubine Yen? With a touch of surprise on his face, Dustless thought to himself, why did she come to the scholarly faction? It seems that no one has a relationship with her. I don't remember Fun Yen knowing her. You two come over here. Looking at Tianming and Xiaoyu, Dustless hooked his finger. Although the two of them were unhappy, they still walked over. When did that woman come? Dustless squatted down, stared into the eyes of the two, lowered his head and asked, how long has Fun Yen been talking with her? It seems to be an hour ago. The two of them have been talking for almost an hour. Tianming and Xiaoyu looked at each other and said in unison, okay, you two can leave. Dustless waved his hand, indicating that the two of them could leave. It's really strange. Dustless also turned to leave, looking deeply at Concubine Yen. According to the information obtained by Yueshan and Great Si Ming, Concubine Yen, who was imprisoned on the Mirage, seemed to have made some kind of secret deal with Dong Huangtai. The content was probably to secretly deal with Dustless. It's better to find a time to test Concubine Yen. Last time I promised you her to save her. With a plan in mind, Dustless also left quietly as if he didn't see anything. As for the purpose of Concubine Yan's visit, he had already guessed what it was. The scholarly faction was quite powerful in the Mulberry Sea. She was probably asking Fun Yen to provide information about Dustless. However, the funny thing was that Zichen was Dustless, and he was also the left guardian of the school of Yinyang. Moreover, he had appeared right under Concubine Yan's nose. Unfortunately, she didn't realize Dustless's identity at that time. Time flew by. 3 days later in the evening, Dustless, who was bored, went to the Mirage to find young Si Ming to catch up. His identity now was different from before. He was the left guardian of the school of Yinyang. Therefore he could enter and leave the Mirage at will. Some people's every move could not escape Dustless's eyes. When he learned that Concubine Yen had left the Mirage again, Dustless stopped chatting with young Si Ming and secretly followed her. Just as I guessed, Concubine Yen has been looking for me. In the dark night, the chilly wind blew. When Dustless saw Concubine Yan's figure and stopped in front of a wall full of wanted posters, the confusion in his eyes suddenly disappeared. This woman is really childish and naive sometimes. Is she really the first extraordinary woman of the school of Yinyang Donghuang? Or is it that married women are all very emotional and have erased their original personality? Dustless's heart was full of emotions. He was sure that Dong Huangtai and Concubine Yen had reached some kind of deal. According to Concubine Yan's temperament, there was no doubt that she loved you, very much. Dong Huangtai might use this as a breakthrough. For example, as long as Concubine Yen killed Dustless, he would let her and her mother reunite. He would use such conditions to threaten Concubine Yen. She really treats Dong Huangtai as a kind person. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. After hesitating for a few seconds, he finally took the initiative to go forward and tell concubine Yen the reason. Chapter 1899. Looking up at the sky, the deep night sky stretched as far as the eye could see. The moonlight was like a plate, and the cold moonlight made people shiver. Concubine Yen, who was sad, stood alone and did not fit in with the dead silence around her, as if she came from another world and was full of sadness. For countless nights, concubine Yen would dream of living in harmony with Yen Dan and Yu as a family. It was very warm and harmonious, and they lived a happy family life. But dreams were just dreams after all. They were just illusions caused by longing. They were far from reality. "This young lady, why are you all alone on such a long night? Do you want to have a drink with me?" However, before Dustless could finish his nonsense, concubine Yen just glanced at Dustless coldly with a warning look and walked away. Her eyes were full of disgust, and she was telling him that if he dared to follow her, she would kill him without mercy. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? How dare she ignore me? Seeing that concubine Yen treated him like air, Dustless was petrified. In order to expose his identity, he deliberately tore off Zichen's disguise and met concubine Yen with his original appearance. However, concubine Yen turned a blind eye to him. She just glanced at Dustless and left in a hurry. Is concubine Yan's target not me? Staring at concubine Yan's gradually disappearing figure, Dustless finally gritted his teeth and decisively chased after her. At the same time, he was speechless and complained in his heart, "Is this woman crazy from longing? I am the prey she wants to catch even in her dreams. I am blocking her way, but concubine Yen turns a deaf ear to me. Where did she get the courage to be so willful?" He had always been the one to ignore others. This time he was ignored by concubine Yen. Dustless was furious. He turned into a gust of wind and chased after her. "I am Dustless, your sworn enemy. The sworn enemy of your Inyang school in the Qin kingdom." Blocking concubine Yan's way again, Dustless simply revealed his identity with an arrogant look. There are so many hopeless young people these days. Which wanted criminal would reveal his identity in front of the enemy? You must be crazy. Concubine Yen just glanced at Dustless and felt bored. Then, under Dustless's surprised gaze, she floated away. "Other than you, everyone in your family is mentally ill." Dustless was extremely depressed, and just as he was about to reiterate his identity, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he hurriedly shouted, "You, and I have a very good relationship. She has entrusted me with an important matter." Sure enough, the sudden words made concubine Yen stop as if she had been electrocuted. She turned her head to look at the smiling Dustless, and her pupils suddenly shrank. Those eyes! His gaze was fixed on Dustless's left eye. Within the eye socket, 9 pitch-black magatama could be clearly seen. The eyeball had also turned purple, and circles of black ripples were drifting outwards. It was the rebirth Sharingan. "Are you really Dustless? Was he crazy? Not only did he dare to appear in front of me, he even revealed his identity? What on earth are you up to?" Concubine Yan's tone suddenly rose several times. Her face was full of shock and her mind was in a mess. Looking at the calm Dustless, she couldn't help but frown and say, "Since this guy knows that he is a wanted criminal of the Empire, why did he dare to come to me? Does he want to betray me?" It was not concubine Yan's fault that they didn't recognize Wuchen before. The fundamental reason was that Wuchen's appearance on the wanted poster was very different from Wuchen's appearance. They only had 20 to 30% similarity. Moreover, no one would have thought that a wanted traitor would suddenly appear under their noses. At this moment, the reason why she was sure that the person in front of her was Dustless was because of the purple rebirth Sharingan. When Dustless defeated Xing Hun, he used his dojutsu to tease Xing Hun. In the internal meeting of the Inyang school, Xing Hun also mentioned Dustless's dojutsu, so concubine Yen paid more attention. Realizing that concubine Yen finally recognized him, Dustless said with great hesitation, "If the soldiers of the Qin kingdom were as careless as you, they would have been wiped out long ago. Are you really concubine Yen of the Inyang school, who even the moon goddess is afraid of?" "You?" Concubine Yan's white face was slightly red, and her phoenix-like eyes were burning with anger. She was very angry by Dustless's words. "I'm curious. You know that I'm Dong Hun of the Inyang school, but you still dare to come to me. Are you going to repent? This is actually not bad. With your strength, if you join the Inyang school, you may be put in an important position." "I don't need you to tell me." Dustless laughed in his heart. When he pretended to be Ziqin, wasn't his identity the left guardian of the Yin-Yang school? If you want to catch me, go somewhere else. This is not the right place. Glancing at the mechanical bats flying in the sky, Dustless didn't care whether Concubine Yen agreed or not. His body moved like the wind and rushed out of the city where there were few people. Dustless still had a lot of questions to ask Concubine Yen. It was a waste of time to stay here. Sooner or later he would be discovered by the patrolling guards. It would be troublesome if he attracted unnecessary flies. This boy. He is so young but his strength is so strong. He is even stronger than Xinghan. Concubine Yen, who was chasing Dustless's back at full speed, saw his fleeting speed and became silent. Not to mention the others, even she found it extremely difficult to catch up with him. What does this mean? Is he deliberately going easy on me? Chapter 1900. Outside Mulberry Sea City, far away from the bustling city, it was dead silent. The dark winter environment added a sense of fear and panic for no reason. The bone-chilling cold wind made people feel uncomfortable. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Using the weak and hazy moonlight, the two figures that were moving at full speed also stopped. Not running anymore? Staring coldly at Dustless, Concubine Yen opened her eyes slightly and asked seriously, "What did you ask you to say? No, with your identity how can you see you, don't try to trick me. On the Mirage even I can't go in and out at will, let alone you, an enemy of the school of Yin-Yang. Some places are strictly forbidden, especially you, residents. And it seems that you have been following me all this time. How can an outsider know my whereabouts?" Realizing that something was wrong, Concubine Yan's expression changed drastically. She stared at Dustless and secretly gathered her internal force. As soon as she realized that something was wrong, she would launch a fatal attack to kill Dustless. At the same time, a terrible idea came to her mind, but she didn't dare to think about it. "I didn't know that you were so talkative. In fact, you asked so many questions in vain. Looking at your nervous face, you have already guessed it, haven't you?" Dustless's lips curled into a proud arc. His unruly eyes were filled with endless playfulness. "What kind of person can get close to you, is there a need to ask? Of course it's the school of Yin-Yang. Why can I know your whereabouts? This is even simpler. That's because I am also a member of the school of Yin-Yang." Dustless looked at the shocked Concubine Yen with a playful face and said flatly, "That's impossible." Concubine Yen denied without thinking and said loudly, "Even if you can sneak into the school of Yin-Yang, it's impossible to get close to you. Your identity in the school of Yin-Yang is extraordinary, unless..." Suddenly realizing something, Concubine Yan's heart suddenly trembled. "Could it be that you are, just as you think?" With a playful smile, Dustless replied proudly, "My real identity is Fa Zichen, the left protector of the school of Yin-Yang. In that case, wouldn't all the problems be solved? Wouldn't it be reasonable? It's precisely because I'm the left protector of the school of Yin-Yang that I can come into contact with you, at any time. I can also enter and exit the Mirage at will. At the same time, I can also monitor your whereabouts at any time. Everything about you is under my control." "You bastard, you actually hid it so deeply?" Concubine Yan's face turned green. She clenched her fists tightly and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She had been racking her brain for a way to capture Dustless every day. She had racked her brains and worked hard to find a way to capture him. But the ironic thing was, the enemy she wanted to capture even in her dreams was right in front of her eyes. He was even chatting and laughing with the people of the school of Yin-Yang. He had even become the left guardian of the school of Yin-Yang. Now he was about to marry young Judge Ming. This traitor had reached such a terrifying position. Concubine Yen shuddered at the thought of it. Even Xinghan had been kicked out by Dustless. Perhaps this guy would become the new leader of the school of Yin-Yang in the future. The East Lord of the school of Yin-Yang had been played like a clown by this Dustless. All the accumulated anger in Concubine Yan's heart exploded at this moment. Go to hell. The majestic inner strength in her body turned into a violent attack. Concubine Yan's body glowed with golden light. The endless night was as bright as day. Is it that boring Dragon Soul tour, again? Feeling the familiar wave, Dustless felt bored. Yueshin and Xinghan had used this move before. There was nothing different. Its power was only slightly stronger than ordinary true Qi. For example, just like in Naruto, the Biju's chakra density is higher than that of humans, and the Biju's chakra is more destructive than humans, and the Soul Dragon's chakra is similar. Wait. Seeing that concubine Yan's attack was about to fly over, Dustless suddenly said, "Don't you want to know what you said to me?" This sentence was more effective than a panacea. Concubine Yan's majestic power disappeared in an instant. She asked anxiously, "What did yours say to you? Is she doing well?" "Of course she is. After all, I was the one who sent her to the school of Yin-Yang. How could I let her suffer?" As for what she said, Silver's pupils changed, revealing his 3-tomo Sharingan. His eyes widened slightly, and the conversation with you that day was projected into concubine Yan's mind in the form of illusion. What you said was far clearer and more convincing than Dustless's explanation. "That's good." After a while, Imperial concubine Yan came back to her senses and smiled brightly. Her smile was so beautiful that even Wuxian was in a daze. "So what's your plan?" Asked me to save you from the school of Yin-Yang." Looking into concubine Yan's eyes, Dustless said bluntly, "You can find a place to live in seclusion. I will save you, sooner or later." "Live in seclusion?" Hearing this, concubine Yan smiled bitterly. It was easy to say but extremely difficult to do. Not to mention the power of the school of Yin-Yang and the claws and teeth of the Qin kingdom, how could concubine Yan live in seclusion without worry? It was difficult to do. Dong Huang Tai once threatened her that as long as she dared to disappear, he would secretly kill Yu. Even if this was a lie to concubine Yan, she dared not gamble. After all, the bet was Yu's life. If she lost, there would be no more. "Thank you for your kindness, but..." Concubine Yan's eyes, which were originally calm, became piercingly cold again. Concubine Yan also looked at Wuchen with cold eyes. "But I have a new plan which is safer than what you said." Chapter 1901. A new plan? Dustless's eyes lit up. His interest was piqued. "What's the plan? Tell me about it." "It's simple." Concubine Yan looked at Dustless indifferently. She didn't hide the ambition on her face. "I've exposed your identity. I've done my job well. Dong Huang Tai will keep his promise and let you and me leave the school of Yin-Yang. We'll live a peaceful life." "That's the stupid idea? So you're selling me out?" Dustless looked at concubine Yan casually and retorted, "You're right. You is important to the school of Yin-Yang. You should know better than me. Dong Huang Tai won't let her go. Besides," thinking of the creepy Dong Huang Tai, Dustless said, "Do you think Dong Huang Tai is a man who keeps his promise? You think he'll let you and you go if you kill me? Wishful thinking." "I don't care about that." Concubine Yan threw caution to the wind. Life was like that. It was impossible to have the best of both worlds. She could only choose the lesser of the two evils. A clear sound rang out. Looking straight ahead, concubine Yan's body glowed brightly. Above her head, a strange 3-legged bird slowly took shape. "It's the 3-legged golden crow formed by the dragon soul again?" Looking at this move again, Dustless was no stranger to it. The last time he tamed the moon god, he also used the exact same move. "Catch him!" Concubine Yan yelled. She pointed at Dustless and tapped lightly. The 3-legged golden crow above her head spread its wings and swooped down instantly. "You're looking down on me." Chakra surged in his body. Dustless's eyes spun rapidly. Divine might. The moment he spat out those two short words, the void suddenly rippled as if it was being torn apart by some kind of undetectable but real power. Crack, crack. A small black hole appeared like a bottomless abyss. Under concubine Yan's shocked gaze, the 3-legged golden crow plunged into it. There was no more movement. It disappeared just like that? Concubine Yan was so shocked that her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Who exactly is he? Dustless's moves are unbelievably strange, and he is also very mysterious. The school of Yin-Yang racked their brains to investigate Dustless's background, but this guy is actually hiding within the school of Yin-Yang, and he even became the left guardian. Concubine Yan looked embarrassed and regretted her decision. If she had listened to Dustless's advice, she might have been able to live a peaceful life with her son in the future. However, if she were to oppose Dustless now, concubine Yan couldn't help but think of a way to end this battle with dignity. "No, I can't admit defeat." Thinking of Yu's pitiful face, concubine Yan was furious. "If you really like you shouldn't have sent her to the Yin-Yang school to suffer." Dustless was silent. He looked at concubine Yan expressionlessly and did not refute her. This was indeed a risky move. It was undeniable that sending to the Yin-Yang school was like sending a lamb to a tiger's den, and it might harm However, as the saying goes, Danger and opportunity often coexist. There is no free lunch in the sky. Everything has to be fought for by oneself. Only by going into the tiger's den can one reap the rewards. What's more, Yueshin, who was responsible for teaching you, was one of them, and so was Great Si Ming. Hum. The clear sound spread again. This time the light was even brighter. The night was dyed golden, and the light was so dazzling that it could blind people's eyes. Seeing that Dustless was silent, Concubine Yen felt that Dustless was showing a guilty conscience. Immediately she launched a more violent attack. It was no longer a simple three-legged golden crow, but a dazzling dozen of them. Wick. Seeing the three-legged golden crow soaring above Concubine Yan's head, Dustless smiled contemptuously. The deep eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was exposed again. Amaterasu. Where Dustless's gaze was focused, a black flame burned without warning, and instantly swallowed the dozen three-legged golden crows. The sacred light was also wrapped by the black flame and slowly disappeared. Ow 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 ow! The arrogant cries of the three-legged golden crows turned into miserable howls, and finally disappeared completely. Damn it, this kid is more evil than Xing Han. Seeing this, Concubine Yen stomped her feet angrily. Even if Wu Qin just stood there motionlessly and let her attack, Concubine Yen could do nothing. Is this the end? If you have any other moves, use them all together. Dustless put his hands in his sleeves and looked at Concubine Yen quietly. Although this woman was cruel and cold, she was Yen Dan's wife. However, her temperament was the opposite of Yen Dan's. At least she liked you, and was not as cold and heartless as Yen Dan. No matter what, I will catch you and send you to Donghuang Tai. Concubine Yen gritted her teeth and stared at Dustless. She subconsciously clenched her fists. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Concubine Yen pounced on Jiang Chen again with a sharp sound. Not bad. Her crystal pupils glowed with indomitable courage, filled with a strange smell of death. Seeing this, Wu Qin showed a rare admiring expression and said with a smile, Concubine Yen, if Yueshin and Great Si Ming are my people, do you still plan to fight against me? Are you talking in your sleep? As soon as he said that, Concubine Yen, who was rushing over, stopped in her tracks. Her beautiful eyes widened as she looked at the man who had a faint smile on his face from beginning to end. Yueshin and Great Si Ming are your men? Are you saying that they have already submitted to you? That's impossible. Do you think you are Donghuang Tai? But that's the truth. It only means that I am more charming than Donghuang Tai, and I am more worthy of their sacrifice. To put it bluntly, we are all on the same side. Dustless said with a hint of pride. He suddenly realized that he had almost dug through the corners of the school of Yin Yang. Chapter 1902. Concubine Yen was stunned by Dustless's shocking words. Her eyes were blank and her mind was numb. She stared at the calm Dustless, her clear eyes taking in everything. She didn't look guilty at all. You're saying that Yueshin and Great Si Ming have joined you? I can't accept this. Concubine Yen tried to accept Dustless's words, but no matter what, it was too surreal. After all, Yueshin and Great Si Ming were Donghuang Tai's best friends. If he wanted to trick them into betraying him, he might as well kill them. That would be more realistic. Concubine Yen, don't look suspicious. You have to understand that nothing is impossible in this world. Everything is full of unknown variables. Dustless explained in a low voice, you've also noticed Yuer's recent situation in the school of Yin Yang, right? She didn't get hurt or lose her memories. Instead, her astrology skills are getting better and better. This already explains everything. It's because Yueshin is under my command that she takes good care of you. That's true. Concubine Yen nodded numbly. The one who taught you astrology was probably Yueshin. So, do you still want to fight me? Seeing Concubine Yan's eyes flickering, Dustless knew that she was still making the final decision. You can't defeat me. Only by joining me and finding another way out and letting me become the new master of the school of Yin Yang will you and your daughter have a chance to break out of the cocoon and be reborn. By then all your wishes will come true. The new master of the school of Yin Yang? Concubine Yen was stunned. She looked at Dustless in shock and asked in a trembling voice, are you going to kill Donghuang Tai? As you said. It was impossible to make Donghuang Tai give up the location of the school of Yin Yang's boss. In that case he could only take it by force. Find a suitable place and kill him. From then on, the school of Yin Yang will be my territory. That arrogant old man is too much of an eyesore. This guy is really black-hearted? Concubine Yan's expression changed slightly. Donghuang Tai had given Dustless the position of left guardian, which was already a great favor. Now this guy wanted to kill Dong Huangtai even more. Concubine Yin felt that Dustless was really vicious. I can't think of a reason why you want to kill Dong Huangtai. There's no need at all. You two shouldn't have any conflict of interest. Why? 7 Mansions of the Azure Dragon. Dustless shut Concubine Yin up with one sentence. He said coldly, anyone who dares to meddle with the 7 Mansions of the Azure Dragon is my enemy and must die. Moreover, he pulled me into the school of Yin Yang and gave me the position of Left Guardian. Wasn't he using me? Since that's the case, we're all in the same boat from now on. After thinking for a while, Concubine Yin finally decided to tie herself to Dustless's pirate ship. In fact, her heart was filled with hatred towards Dong Huangtai. If it were not for him, perhaps she would be living a peaceful life with Yen Dan and Yu Er right now. By the way, there's something I forgot to tell you. His eyes narrowed slightly, shooting out a cunning and sinister light. Your husband Yen Dan was killed by Dong Huangtai. He sent someone to kill Yen Dan. What? Yen Dan is dead? He's the son of the Mo family. I know how powerful he is. How could he be killed so easily? It must be a rumor. Concubine Yin was stunned as if she had been struck by lightning. She looked at Dustless in a daze. But this is the unchangeable truth. Dustless nodded slowly and admitted. The person who killed Yen Dan was naturally Dustless. However, due to the needs of the plot, Dustless decisively pushed all the blame to Xing Hun and Dong Huangtai. Anyway, no one saw it at that time. It was a good opportunity to arouse Concubine Yan's hatred towards the school of Yin Yang. She could not wait to tear Dong Huangtai into pieces. This way, Concubine Yin would stand firmly on Dustless's side. I saw it with my own eyes. Dustless's face was filled with grief. He said in a sorrowful tone, Hero Yin was ambushed by Xing Hun that day. Although he was severely injured and left with a fatal injury, he still refused to bow down to Xing Hun. In order to cover the retreat of the Mo family, he died in the battle. Dustless spoke in a tearful voice. The surrounding atmosphere was affected and filled with grief. Xing Hun and Dong Huangtai. As expected, just as Dustless had expected, Concubine Yan's eyes turned cold. The rolling cold air in her eyes almost solidified into solid ice. Xing Hun, take on more of the blame for me. When I go to hell in the future, I'll burn more paper money for you. Dustless looked desolate, but he was laughing in his heart. Dustless had pushed Gao Jianli and Yen Dan's deaths onto Xing Hun. Cough cough. Seeing that Concubine Yen was furious, Dustless quickly walked over and patted her shoulder. He rolled his eyes and used the same words he used to comfort the Snow Lady. Concubine Yen, you have to be more open-minded. If you continue to give up on yourself, Xing Hun will wake up laughing in his dreams. You're right, Concubine Yen nodded. She retracted the tears in her eyes. Dong Huangtai and Xing Hun must die. Don't worry. This is inevitable. We can go back now. If we delay any longer, someone might become suspicious. Sensing that Concubine Yen had changed her mind, Dustless relaxed his shoulders and said as he walked, the Black Dragon dossier that was sent out last time was one of the plans to annihilate the Mo family. Xing Hun is also one of the main characters, so we can only let him live for a few more days. I promise that after the plan is completed, I'll send that guy to heaven. That's for the best. Concubine Yan's tone was filled with a sense of belonging when she heard this. If Dustless was the type to talk but not do anything, this little alliance would collapse sooner or later. At the same time, Concubine Yen also realized that running away would not solve the problem. Only by completely eliminating the root of the problem, Dong Huangtai, could she and Yu Er be saved. Chapter 1903. Can you let me meet Yu Er once? Concubine Yen looked at Dustless expectantly. Her eyes were sparkling and her face was full of pleading. Although she was free now, her actions were restricted. After all, she had betrayed the Yin Yang school. As for meeting Yu Er, unless Dong Huangtai agreed, the chances were slim. Just for a while. Just a few words. Concubine Yen pulled Dustless's clothes and asked for help. It's not a big problem. As long as I find the right opportunity, I'll let you meet. Seeing Concubine Yen about to cry, Dustless sympathized with her. In fact, it was a small matter. It was Yueshin who was responsible for monitoring Yu Er. As long as he told Yueshin in advance, it would be fine. Thank you. Hearing this, Concubine Yen was very excited and sincerely bowed to Dustless to thank him. It's a small matter. Don't worry about it. Wuxia glanced at Concubine Yen. Due to the fact that Concubine Yen was bending over, Wuxian happened to catch a glimpse of the fair skin on her chest. His expression immediately became unnatural, and his tone was a little shaky. Dustless's eyesight was so good that he could see deep into her snow-white skin. What's the problem? Concubine Yin was not an ordinary person. Naturally, she could hear the subtle change in Dustless's tone. She looked at Dustless curiously. Seeing his erratic eyes, which seemed to be looking at her chest, Concubine Yin remembered that she was so emotional just now. Her perfect face was full of blush and embarrassment. Rogue! Concubine Yin snorted and regained her composure. She left as if nothing had happened. It seemed that she was going back to the mirage. What does it have to do with me? Dustless was depressed. Concubine Yan's behavior was caused by her emotional outburst. What did it have to do with him? Only women and villains are difficult to deal with. Prime Minister. In the courtyard that was filled with Qin army, numerous fierce cavalrymen of Qin state were standing there, looking majestic and awe-inspiring. The long spears held in their hands were glinting with a cold light. Each of these soldiers was emanating a violent aura. Presumably, they were all seasoned soldiers who had been on the battlefield for a long time. And the most important thing was that these Qin soldiers were not just one or two but a large group. This elegant courtyard was the residence of Prime Minister Li Si in Shanghai. Since he was assassinated by Shang-Chi last time, Li Si had been on tenterhooks and had mobilized a large number of armored soldiers of Qin state in his residence. The higher one stood, the more one feared death. In the past, when he was poor, he had nothing to lose. Anyway, his life was worthless, so he did not care if he died. But now it was different. Li Si was the prime minister and had helped Ying Zheng conquer the 6 states. Now was his time to shine. How could he die just like that? In particular, Shang-Chi's assassination attempt last time had left a shadow in Li Si's heart. Now he was more concerned about his own safety. It's Zhao Gao. Li Si, who was lying in the hospital bed, opened his eyes and looked at Zhao Gao and the 6 sword slaves behind him. He suppressed his anger and asked, Shang-Chi, that traitor, how is he now? It's better to catch him alive. I want that guy to feel the pain that he has suffered. Reporting to Prime Minister, someone saw Shang-Chi being killed. Zhao Gao calmly reported, at that time, someone happened to see Zichen of Confucianism killing Shang-Chi. Zichen of Confucianism? Hearing this, Li Si's eyes suddenly became cold. That guy, why does everything have to do with him? Does he deliberately go against me? I don't know about this, but... Zhao Gao's eyes were shining and he analyzed, Prime Minister, it's very likely that Zichen ordered Shang-Chi to assassinate you. Your opinion is the same as mine this time. Li Si agreed and then he asked expectantly, do you have evidence? If you can find evidence that Zichen ordered Shang-Chi to assassinate me, then I can catch him openly. If it was an ordinary person, Li Si and Zhao Gao naturally wouldn't care. They would even say that if he was suspicious they could just kill him. But Dustless was different. First of all, he was the 3rd head of Confucianism and second he was the left guardian of Yinyang school. He was also related to young Master Ming by marriage and was about to get married. Catching such a person was like poking a hornet's nest. Without evidence, the unlucky one would be the one who would be unlucky. Evidence? Zhao Gao's tone was filled with helplessness and frustration. He said apologetically, I didn't do a good job. I haven't found any evidence that Zichen and Shang-Chi colluded. You haven't found it? Li Si was immediately unhappy. He was furious. As the prime minister, he had been assassinated. Could it be that he had to pretend that nothing had happened? That would be too humiliating. Shang-Chi was killed by Zichen. He didn't even leave a corpse. Even his sword, Juk, was taken away by Zichen. There is no evidence to accuse him at all. Zhao Gao was helpless. Dustless didn't leave anything. Where could they find evidence? Prime Minister, have you forgotten the relationship between young master and Zichen? Zhao Gao said meaningfully, even if we take 10,000 steps back and think about it, even if you really found evidence and severely punished Zichen, would the young master just stand by and watch him die? Prime Minister, don't forget that young master is the kind of person who knows how to repay kindness. Zichen saved his life last time. Of course I know this. Li Si's face was full of bad luck. He was the prime minister, but he was inferior to a disciple of Confucianism. How could he not be angry? In other words, to get rid of Zichen we have to get rid of young master Fu Su first? Li Si's eyes shone with a light that was about to devour Fu Su. In history, Fu Su had committed suicide, falling under the scheme of Zhao Gao and Li Si. Chapter 1904. Why did Li Si frame Fusu? This question was related to the power struggle within the empire. Fusu valued the Meng family. Generals like Meng Tian and Meng Yi were highly valued by Fusu. When Fusu became the emperor in the future, the Meng family would definitely be placed in an important position. On the contrary, Li Si and his family would definitely decline. How could one allow others to sleep beside one's bed? Naturally, Li Si would not allow such a thing to happen. Hence he worked together with Zhao Gao to frame Fusu. The two of them started the Sand Dune coup together. Originally, after Qin Shi Huang Yingzheng died, he appointed Prince Fusu as the emperor. However, Li Si and Zhao Gao changed the rules and appointed Hu Hai as the emperor. They also ordered the death of Fusu and Meng Tian, who were outside the Great Wall. After that, the second Qin, Hu Hai, became the emperor, while Li Si and Zhao Gao also rose to the heavens. However, the tragic thing was that not long after, Li Si was killed by Zhao Gao, and his ending was extremely miserable. Lord, Zhao Gao looked at Li Si with a sinister expression and said, "Young master, once Fusu obtains the throne, you should know the relationship between Zichen and Fusu. He will definitely rise in status. We are Zichen's enemies and will definitely receive terrible revenge. So what should we do?" Li Si looked at Zhao Gao expressionlessly. Those black eyes were filled with wisdom that touched one's heart. It was undeniable that Li Si was indeed a famous minister. He helped Yingzheng to unify the 6 states. However, as the saying goes, no one is perfect. Everyone has their flaws. Li Si's biggest flaw was that he placed too much emphasis on power. If he could succeed and retreat, he would not have such a miserable ending in history. Even the Qin state would not have been destroyed. "We should immediately eliminate Zichen," Zhao Gao said with a respectful expression. However, the corner of his lips curled up at a strange angle. He looked very cunning. Eliminate Zichen? Assassination? Forget it. After he dies, young master will definitely be angry. Li Si waved his hand. This plan was a classic example of digging a hole for oneself. With Dustless dead, the person who benefited the most would naturally be the first suspect. Then, Zhao Gao's pupils flashed with a terrifying red light as he revealed the true thoughts in his heart. He said sinisterly, "If that's the case, then we can only get rid of young master Fusu and support Hu Hai to ascend the throne. Otherwise, when Fusu becomes the emperor in the future, forget about revenge. It would already be a blessing from the heavens if Lord Prime Minister is not killed by Zichen. Getting rid of Dustless or exiling him would mean that the position of emperor would fall into Hu Hai's hands. If Li Si wanted to take revenge on Dustless, he would be able to do as he pleased. Zichen, how are your studies going?" In Shaoxing Xian Manor, Funyan looked seriously at the sloppy Dustless and angrily rebuked, "You're about to marry the Yinyang School's young master Ming, yet you're still idling around all day. What a scandal. I don't have the talent for studying, especially those boring books." Dustless casually responded. The ancient language was already cumbersome enough. If he still had to study the books every day, his brain would be damaged sooner or later. "You don't even know a single word. The Yinyang School's young master Ming is well read, but you, sigh." As his voice fell, Funyan revealed a helpless expression. "Why bother about such a small matter? The books of the saints are not to be memorized. Let nature take its course." Dustless continued to be perfunctory. He really didn't have the talent for studying, especially these books of the saints. Some of the so-called principles were also scoffed at in Dustless's eyes. He didn't take it to heart at all. What the ancient said might not be right. The day of the wedding is coming soon. Dustless sat cross-legged with his right hand supporting his chin. Recently, he had been thinking about whether he should find a suitable time to confess his identity to young Master Ming and tell her that Dustless was Zichen. Dustless was confident that even on the wedding night, young Master Ming wouldn't find out his true identity. But, using a disguised identity to be together with young Master Ming for 100 years and having sex with her was something that Dustless couldn't accept physically and mentally. In this way, what was the difference between him and Yandan, who abandoned his wife and son? Dustless also had a bottom line in his heart. If he put himself in her shoes and thought about it, how would you feel if the person who was engaged to you had been using a disguise technique to face you? "I should find a time to confess to young Master Ming." With this thought in mind, Dustless ignored Funyan's frown and left Little Saint Manor directly, rushing towards the elusive mirage that was parked near the Mulberry Sea. Now that Dustless's identity was different from before, no one dared to stop him from entering the elusive mirage. Moreover, he coincidentally bumped into Xing Hun. "Oh, Lord Guardian Yuan, why are you in such a hurry? Are you in a hurry to be reincarnated?" Seeing Xing Hun leaving in a hurry, Dustless turned into a stream of light and blocked his path. He didn't hold back and mocked him. "You, get out of my way." Seeing his most annoying nemesis, Xing Hun was furious. He said angrily, "The moon deity and concubine Yen are meeting in secret. They must be plotting something. If you think you're a guardian of the school of Yin Yang, you should come with me to catch those two suspects." "Xing Hun, you seem to have forgotten your current identity." Glancing at the anxious Xing Hun, Dustless blocked his path and refused to give way. "Yueshin is a guardian and you are just Guardian Yuan. Remember you're Guardian Yuan. You're just an ordinary disciple of the Yin Yang school now. You don't have the right to interfere with her matters. Remember your identity." "I'm not deaf. You don't have to repeat yourself." Xing Hun was extremely aggrieved. He glared at Dustless fiercely and could only leave with a face full of anger. He had no choice. What Dustless said was the truth. Xing Hun had been stripped of his status as a guardian and was now just an ordinary Yin Yang disciple with a low status. Chapter 1905. That damn Zichen. How dare he be so arrogant after stealing my identity? I'm so angry. Xing Hun's face contorted violently. This was all thanks to Wu Chen. Now everyone was looking at him differently. They were filled with pity, sympathy, and ridicule. Yun Zhongjuan was the most affected. When they met in the past, Yun Zhongjuan would obediently call him Lord Xing Hun. But now, it was just a simple greeting to Xing Hun. He called him by his name. "Isn't this Xing Hun? Why do you have such a long face?" Speaking of the devil, Xing Hun looked up and saw Yun Zhongjuan. Humph. Xing Hun snorted in annoyance and secretly cursed Yun Zhongjuan for being a fence-sitter. When he was still a guardian, this guy had been trying to curry favor with him. Now that his position had been stolen by Dustless, Yun Zhongjuan did not seem to care about him anymore. "Yun Zhongjuan, don't you have a long face too?" Xing Hun glanced indifferently at Yun Zhongjuan, then stood with his hands behind his back and said lazily, "We're still allies for now, so there's no need for us to mock and ridicule each other. The Yin Yang school is about to be snatched away by that brat Zichen, so we must take countermeasures." "That makes sense." Yun Zhongjuan's vexed face flashed with anger. He said hatefully, "Zichen is too arrogant. The last time he asked me for Yuziki, I didn't give it to him and he complained to Lord Donghuang. That guy is too much." "That's right," Xing Hun agreed and said gloomily, "he is indeed relying on Lord Donghuang's favor to do whatever he wants. He doesn't care about us at all. I really don't know what's so special about him." "I plan to kill that guy." Xing Hun suddenly said something shocking. His face was distorted again. His eyes were rolling with a green light and his tone was as scary as a malicious spirit. "Kill him?" Yun Zhongjuan was startled. When he saw that there was no one around, he said incredulously, "Are you crazy? That guy is highly regarded by Lord Donghuang. We are finished if we kill him." "Idiot." Xing Hun glanced at Yun Zhongjuan with a mocking gaze before he sneered and said, "Lord Donghuang thinks so highly of him because Zichen is still alive. If he were dead, do you think Lord Donghuang would still care about him?" "This does make some sense. Once a person is dead, he has no value at all. He is just a skeleton." Xing Hun's words left Yun Zhongjuan speechless. He fell silent for a moment, not knowing how to answer Xing Hun. Yun Zhongjuan knew that if he couldn't kill Dustless, they would be the ones to be destroyed. This concerned their lives, so he naturally had to think twice before acting. "Yun Zhongjuan, now that you're on my ship, don't even think about staying out of this." Looking at the hesitant Yun Zhongjuan, Xing Hun urged, "That brat is about to rule the school of Yin Yang. The Moon God and Great Sea Ming both have a mysterious relationship with Zichen. Last time, when Zichen was in trouble, the Moon Goddess and Great Sea Ming both stood out to help. You know young Sea Ming's situation better than I do. They are about to get married, so it's best to kill Zichen before they get married. After they get married, we won't have any right to speak anymore. That brat is indeed a huge threat to us if he's alive. Maybe the position of the head of the school of Yin Yang will be his in the future. I will never allow that to happen." Yun Zhongjuan roared in a hoarse voice. He was full of resentment towards Dustless. "In that case, I'll risk my life and go all out with you. But the two of us may not be his match." Yun Zhongjuan looked depressed. He had the honor of witnessing Dustless's powerful strength. Even if he joined forces with Xing Hun, he reckoned that they would only be sending themselves to Dustless. "Stupid." Xing Hun glanced at Yun Zhongjuan and said calmly, "Have you forgotten that there are 5 elders in the school of Yin Yang? Besides Si Ming and Great Si Ming, there are 3 more elders. Besides you, there is also Xiangjuan and her wife, A Huang. You mean Xiangjuan and A Huang are on our side? Yun Zhongjuan asked in ecstasy. If it were in the past, they would definitely not participate in this kind of thing. But now, that brat Zichen is too powerful. Yueshan, Great Si Ming and Young Si Ming are all on his side. If we continue to observe, our school of Yin Yang will become that brat's territory sooner or later. Xing Hun was depressed when he said this. Initially, the school of Yin Yang had planned to rope in Zichen and indirectly use him to control the Confucian school. But now, the situation had taken a dramatic turn. Not only had the Confucian school not been swallowed by the school of Yin Yang, but the school of Yin Yang was about to be swallowed by Dustless. That's right. If it were someone else who had unified the school of Yin Yang, it would be fine. But Zichen is an outsider after all. I will never allow him to become the head of the school of Yin Yang in the future. He's not qualified. Yun Zhongjuan's face was full of hostility. He was full of resentment towards Dustless. When Dustless had just become the left guardian, he had used his status to suppress and humiliate him. No one could tolerate this kind of thing if it happened to anyone. Then Yun Zhongjuan narrowed his eyes. He looked at Xing Hun and analyzed, You, me, Xiangjuan, and her wife A Huang. The 4 of us may not be able to defeat Zichen. There are also 4 people over there. Zichen, Yueshan, Great Si Ming, and Young Si Ming. Zichen's strength is extraordinary. He can fight against the 4 of them alone. When he said this, the corners of Yun Zhongjuan's mouth began to twitch. He secretly cursed Dustless for being a freak. Hee. Unexpectedly, Xing Hun just laughed sinisterly. A few golden worms suddenly appeared on his hand. He said coldly, To be honest, before I came here, I have secretly placed the corpse deity curse Gu in the places where Yueshan, Young Si Ming, and Great Si Ming live. In this way, do you think we have no chance of winning? Yin Zhongjuan. Chapter 1906. You are indeed a genius. I will definitely get rid of Zichen this time. Yun Zhongjuan clapped his hands excitedly. His eyes were shining with a cruel light. It's necessary to prepare for a rainy day. Hearing Yun Zhongjuan's praise, Xing Hun's face was as calm as still water. He didn't care at all. Instead, he secretly despised Yun Zhongjuan's stupidity in his heart. There was a simpler and faster way to get rid of the opponent. Why did he have to blindly challenge Dustless? It was completely unnecessary. Young Master Ming's room was simple and clean. There was no complicated dressing table. That was completely unnecessary. There was no need to deliberately dress up. It was enough to keep it natural. The roots of the school of Yin Yang were also Taoist. They focused on cultivating one's body and mind. The female disciples of the school of Yin Yang didn't know anything about makeup. Crick. The door was gently pushed open. Young Master Ming wrinkled her nose. This person was very mysterious. Even she didn't sense any movement. It's you. Seeing Dustless's face, young Master Ming was enlightened. Then, the corners of her mouth curled up and she squeezed out a cheerful smile. Why can't it be me? Dustless asked. Sensing young Master Ming's smile and her pleasant voice, he couldn't help but feel a little smug. Dustless was sure that the person young Master Ming had talked to the most in her life was him. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. How would young Master Ming feel if she knew his true identity? Come clean. What's to come can't be avoided. Looking at young Master Ming's clear eyes, Dustless threw the hesitation on his face away. Young Master Ming, actually, my true identity is that the school of Yin Yang has always, bang. Not waiting for Wu Chen's voice to fall, the closed sliding door was kicked open by someone. This sudden loud noise made Dustless and young Master Ming frown. No matter what, this was young Master Ming's room. Even Xing Hun wouldn't dare to be so arrogant as to kick the door open. Ha! A hearty laugh sounded. Then a middle-aged man with a sage-like demeanor appeared in front of them. His every move was accompanied by a breeze. Purple chi came from the east, making him look like a legendary immortal. Yin Zhongjuan? Seeing this man, Dustless and Xiaoxi Ming glanced at each other, and both of them could see the surprise in each other's eyes. Dustless was fine, but Xiaoxi Ming couldn't stand it anymore. She harumphed angrily as a cold light gathered in her eyes. After all, she was one of the 5 great elders of the school of Yin Yang. She was on the same level as Yun Zhongjuan. However, this guy had broken into her house without saying a word. Moreover, he was so arrogant. If young Master Ming didn't do anything about it, she would lose face. He would definitely become a laughingstock in the future. Give me an explanation, Yun Zhongjuan. Xiao Ming slightly clenched her fists and questioned coldly. Explain? Yun Zhongjuan stroked his beard like an old man and sneered. Explain? What explanation do you need? Young Arbiter Ming, you and Zichen are already in such a state, and you still dare to ask me for an explanation? Why don't you kneel down and beg me to let you go? What do you mean? Are you planning to rebel? Dustless was very interested. He couldn't help but be surprised by Yun Zhongjuan's arrogance. This guy had suddenly become much bolder. Before, when he saw him, he was always timid. Without a reasonable explanation, even if Dong Huangtai is here, he can't save you. Explain my ass. Yun Zhongjuan looked at Dustless's stinky face and cursed, which was rare for him. He was really an eyesore. Ever since this guy joined the school of Yin Yang, he had been possessed by bad luck. He often encountered all kinds of bad luck and couldn't even sleep well. Don't play tricks with me. Don't think that I don't know that you two are now poisoned by the corpse god curse. After being bitten by that kind of insect, you can't use your internal force for an hour. You can't fool me. Yun Zhongjuan said confidently and unceremoniously exposed Dustless and Xiao Ming. He gnashed his teeth and said, especially you, Zichen. You dare to humiliate me again and again. This time I will definitely torture you. Do you still remember Yuziki last time? I've decided to make you into a medicine man too. The so-called medicine man, to put it bluntly, was a puppet. It had no consciousness and followed orders like a zombie. Corpse god curse? Dustless looked at Xiao Ming suspiciously, but the latter just shook her head, not understanding what Yun Zhongjuan was talking about. You saw it too, right? The two of us are not poisoned by the so-called corpse god curse. You've been deceived, Yun Zhongjuan. Dustless looked at this self-righteous fool with pity. He was most likely fooled by Xing. Impossible, don't try to fool me. Yun Zhongjuan fixed his eyes on Xiao Ming and Dustless and retorted with a red face, watch me tear your disguises apart. Swoosh, swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the sword at Yun Zhongjuan's waist suddenly flew out of its scabbard. His whole aura changed. His eyes were like torches, scorching like knives. Then, the sword violently slashed at Xiao Ming and Dustless. Full of loopholes. Xiao Ming gently pointed her slender finger, and a large number of emerald green leaves on the bonsai drifted over. Million leaves flying flower stream. With a flick of her finger, a large number of leaves shot out like darts. There were so many of them that it was difficult to defend against them. Even the eyes were a little overwhelmed. Bastard, didn't you lose your inner strength? Xing, that damned liar. How dare you deceive me, you despicable brat. Yun Zhongjuan's expression changed drastically. He cursed Xing 1,000 times and quickly dodged to the side. Although he reacted in time, Yun Zhongjuan was still covered in cuts and bruises. Blood flowed freely. The seemingly weak leaves were sharper than a steel knife and easily shredded his skin. His entire body was covered in blood. Yun Zhongjuan thought that Xiao Ming and Dustless had lost their inner strength and were pretending to be calm, so he did not put up much defense. That was why Xiao Ming was able to succeed. You're really pitiful. Don't you know that you've been used by Xing? If I'm not wrong, Xing, that brat, is probably using you to buy time. How sad. Chapter 1907. Damn Xing. Why did he lie to me? What good does it do him? Yun Zhongjuan was furious. Blue veins were bulging on his forehead. The stinging pain all over his body made him grimace in pain. His eyes were red and filled with a crazed light that was comparable to that of a wild beast. You've really lived half your life in vain. Dustless stared at Yun Zhongjuan and couldn't help but sigh. Xing is only in his teens. What about you? You're in your 40s or 50s. How could you be fooled by a little kid? Have you lived your whole life in vain? Upon hearing Dustless's words, Yun Zhongjuan's vision turned black. He spat out a mouthful of blood and spilled it all over the ground. Zichen, stop talking. After all, he's from the same sect. What if he dies from anger? Young Master Ming tugged at the corner of Dustless's clothes worriedly. Of course, she wasn't worried about Yun Zhongjuan's death. She was just afraid that if this old man died from anger, Dustless would also be punished. Do I need you to worry about me? Dustless pinched young Master Ming's delicate nose and said with a smile, haven't you seen it yet? This is no longer a personal grudge. It's a serious coup d'etat. It wouldn't be too much to kill Yun Zhongjuan. I won't allow you to scratch me. Young Master Ming snorted softly and turned her head away with a look that said, I don't want to talk to you. However, she was secretly glancing at Dustless's face from the corner of her eyes. She seemed to be very concerned about Dustless's reaction. A woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Dustless glanced at young Master Ming helplessly and slowly walked towards Yun Zhongjuan. Old man, how does it feel to be a prisoner? Isn't it ecstasy? Diske, how dare you go against me? You're really bold. Do you have an accomplice? Dustless knew Yun Zhongjuan's character. This old man would never dare to act alone. Moreover, he had mentioned Xinghun just now. What does that have to do with you? Yun Zhongjuan retorted coldly. Even though he hated Xinghun to death, he also did not have a good impression of Dustless. The two of them were jackals of the same tribe, each more cunning and sinister than the other. You're not telling me? Upon hearing this, Dustless's lips curled into a devilish smile as he snatched Yun Zhongjuan's sword. Yun Zhongjuan, have you ever heard of car splitting? Dustless looked at Yun Zhongjuan with a mischievous smile. Tell me your plan or else. You know what I mean. Go. Seeing this, Yun Zhongjuan's heart skipped a beat. He had a feeling that a great disaster was about to befall him. Looking at Dustless's evil face, he sighed inwardly and felt a chill in his heart. The so-called chariot-splitting punishment, to put it simply, was to dismember the body by 5 horses. The person's limbs and head would be connected to the 5 horses with a rope. Then, the horses would be whipped violently and the human body would be torn apart with the greatest force. Do you want to enjoy it? Dustless's eyes lit up. He circled Yun Zhongjuan and comforted him. It's okay. It doesn't hurt at all. Don't worry. You might die in an instant and not feel any pain. Bullsh *T. Yun Zhongjuan panicked. What a joke. It would be terrible if he was dismembered by 5 horses. What if he didn't die? He would definitely die from the pain. Moreover, Yun Zhongjuan did not intend to die yet. You don't believe me? Dustless's face turned cold. The sword in his hand stabbed out decisively. Ah, my hand? Yun Zhongjuan immediately screamed. He was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. His right hand was bleeding profusely. His entire palm had been pierced and a sharp sword was stuck in it. The culprit was Dustless. You can't do this to me. If you torture me like this, His Excellency Dong Huang will not easily. Dustless glanced at Yun Zhongjuan coldly. Then he pierced Yun Zhongjuan's other hand with his sword. Yun Zhongjuan immediately shut his mouth. Don't be too complacent. If I didn't think that you were useful, I would have killed you long ago. The reason why Dustless let Yun Zhongjuan continue to live was that Yun Zhongjuan was the only person in the world who could refine the elixir of immortality. Although the elixir of immortality was useless to him, it was quite effective on others. For example, Duanmu Rong, Young Master Si Ming and Great Master Si Ming were all peerless divine elixirs. I'll tell you everything. Yun Zhongjuan stared at Dustless's gloomy face and felt a chill in his heart. He didn't want to be tortured to death. After a little hesitation, he decisively confessed everything. It was Xinghun who sent me to deal with the two of you. He said that you've been poisoned by the corpse god Curse Gu and are powerless. Xinghun, Xiangjuan, and Madame Xiang are responsible for dealing with Yueshan and Great Master Si Ming. Yun Zhongjuan's face was full of fear. He told the truth and continued, after we're done we'll kill all of you. Even His Excellency Dong Huang won't blame us. Anyway, you're all dead. His Excellency Dong Huang won't punish us for a few dead people. Xinghun, that brat, is very shrewd. Dustless sneered and said disdainfully, Xinghun, that brat, never does anything he's not confident in. His plan can't be that simple. That brat must have other motives for sending you here to stall for time. That damn bastard. Xinghun should go to hell and be torn apart by 5 horses. It would have been fine if Xinghun had not been mentioned, but the moment that sinister and black-bellied brat was mentioned, Yun Zhongjuan immediately cursed, I won't let him off even if I become a ghost. Why is he stalling for time? Dustless was puzzled. He sent Yun Zhongjuan to stall for time because he was afraid that he and young Master Si Ming would meddle in other people's business. Great Master Si Ming and you, didn't seem to have anything that Xinghun wanted. Could it be, that damn brat, could it be that he was after her from the beginning? Chapter 1908. No matter if it was Yueshan or Great Si Ming, they were not easy to deal with. As a member of the school of Yin Yang, Xinghun should know this better than Dustless. In that case, there was only one person in the school of Yin Yang who had a high status and a weak strength. Xinghun's target must be you, right? Dustless narrowed his eyes. After thinking for a while, was the only suitable target. Although her strength was weak, her status was not inferior to Yueshin. At the same time, he could use to threaten Yueshin, Dustless and the others. Xinghun's plan is pretty good. Dustless admired Xinghun's intelligence. He used Yun Zhongjuan as bait to create an illusion that he was going to attack Xinghun and Yueshin. That kid's success was not due to luck. Why aren't you worried at all? Xiao Ming was puzzled when she saw Dustless's calm face. In the school of Yinyang, and Dustless seemed to be the closest, even more so than Yueshin. Worried? Dustless glanced at Xiao Ming and explained softly, Xiao Ming, don't you think that Xinghun is too arrogant? He actually dared to capture you. That kid doesn't even know how to spell the word death. I'm just worried that he will capture Jiru Qianlong to threaten us. Xiao Ming pouted unhappily when she saw Dustless's casual explanation. Calm down, Xiao Ming. Dustless said a word that made Xiao Ming roll her eyes. He analyzed carefully, since it's a threat, it means that Xinghun won't hurt you. In that case, there's no need to be anxious. Haha. Yun Zhongjuan's hoarse, zombie-like laughter rang out. He rebuked angrily, damn Xinghun. How dare he trick me? Xiangjuan and Madame Xiang too. The three of them are together. Bastard. Yun Zhongjuan's face was bitter. He really couldn't understand how he was inferior to Xiangjuan and Madame Xiang. How could he be abandoned by Xinghun without any hesitation? You idiot. Upon hearing that Yun Zhongjuan was still complaining, Dustless shook his head and sighed. Yun Zhongjuan, I finally understand why Xinghun abandoned you now. You haven't gone crazy from alchemy, have you? Bastard, are you looking down on me as well? Bah. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, Yun Zhongjuan was slapped hard in the face. A red handprint was clearly visible on his rough cheek. You bastard. Yun Zhongjuan flew into a rage and looked at Dustless ferociously. His eyes seemed to want to swallow him whole. This was the first time in his life that he had been slapped in the face. You're just a prisoner now. It's up to me to kill you. Figure out who you are. Dustless glanced coldly at Yun Zhongjuan, then sneered and said, Haven't you figured it out yet? The so-called Lady Xiang and Lady Xiang are just lies that Xinghun made up to fool you. Upon hearing this, Yun Zhongjuan's eyes widened. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. He froze on the spot and didn't move. Xinghun has already been stripped of his status as a guardian. To put it bluntly, he's just a salted fish now. What right does he have to cooperate with Lady Xiang and Lady Xiang? Don't you think you're too childish? Yun Zhongjuan, haven't you realized that you've been kept in the dark from the beginning? Yun Zhongjuan, who couldn't hold back his anger, spat out another mouthful of blood. He hammered the ground as if he had gone crazy. He couldn't understand why Xinghun had tricked him. The two of them were allies. What good would it do Xinghun if he fell? A pitiful person must have something hateful. Dustless glanced at Yun Zhongjuan in disdain. Then he brushed past him. If it wasn't for the fact that Yun Zhongjuan still had value in alchemy, he would have killed this idiot. Weren't the so-called allies used to trick others? Bang. Young Master Ming knocked Yun Zhongjuan out with a heavy punch. Then she walked toward Yuer's room with Dustless. I didn't manage to meet the moon goddess, but I managed to meet you, an important guest. What a surprise. Yuer's room was very warm and cozy. However, the sudden eerie voice destroyed the peaceful atmosphere and filled the air with dreary coldness. Indeed, the heavens are on my side. I'm destined to be the winner this time. Xinghun laughed maniacally. When he saw Concubine Yan's embarrassed expression, a trace of joy flashed across his face. He had planned to use the corpse god Kursku on the moon goddess and the others. However, the moon goddess and Great Ming were no ordinary people. Fortunately, they had avoided a great calamity. However, what surprised Xinghun was that Concubine Yan, who was eager to protect her daughter, had fallen for it. Xinghun, are you trying to betray the Yinyang school? Do you know what you're doing now? Concubine Yan shouted angrily. Hid behind her with a terrified expression. That's right. I did intend to betray the Yinyang school. I hate that bastard Dong Huangtai. I've served the Yinyang school for so many years, but he abandoned me without even looking at me. Xinghun's face twisted. He roared like a wild beast. If it wasn't for Dong Huangtai protecting Zichen, I wouldn't have ended up like this. It's all his fault. Since then, Xinghun had been plotting how to take revenge on the Yinyang school. As for working with Yun Zhongjuan, it was completely the latter's wishful thinking. After witnessing Dong Huangtai's ruthlessness, Xinghun no longer harbored any illusions about the Yinyang school. He swore to take revenge on the Yinyang school. Capturing Yu was the greatest revenge against the Yinyang school. After all, Yu was the key to unlocking the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Without her, Dong Huangtai would definitely be furious. Chapter 1909. Of course, Xinghun's plan was only a small part of the overall plan. He had greater ambitions. From the moment Dong Huangtai abandoned Xinghun, he had completely changed. The strong were respected. Absolute power could crush everything. Dong Huangtai was a joke. Hee hee, Xinghun let out a shrill laugh. His hollow eyes pierced through time and space. He could already see Dustless and Dong Huangtai kneeling and begging for mercy in the future. Aha! Arrogant laughter spread. Xinghun laughed coldly in his heart. Even though I don't know what secret Jiru Qianlong has, she is inextricably linked to unlocking the secret of the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Legend has it that if you obtain the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, you can obtain the entire world. Hence, I must get my hands on this little girl. Taking Yu away and monopolizing the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon was Xinghun's final plan. Yu seeing Xinghun's crazy eyes, concubine Yan was secretly on guard. She stroked Yu's hair and comforted her softly. I will help you stall for time. Take this time to find Dustless or the Moon Goddess. I don't want to leave, mother. Yu shook her head stubbornly. She hugged concubine Yan's right leg tightly and refused to let go. TSK, how touching. Even I can't bear to see you like this. Xinghun stood with his hands behind his back and sighed leisurely. You are so close that I know who is Dustless. Don't tell me it's that brat. A smiling face that had been mocking him suddenly appeared in his mind. Xinghun's face immediately darkened. Also, what do you mean by that? You want Jiru Qianlong to find Dustless and the Moon Goddess? Concubine Yen, Dong Huangtai has locked you up for too long. Is your brain damaged? This is the mirage. How can Dustless be here? Staring at concubine Yen, Xinghun mocked her without restraint. But when he saw concubine Yan's disdainful expression, he was furious. You have already been bitten by the corpse god Kursku. How dare you be so arrogant? If it wasn't for your value, I would have killed you long ago. Xinghun had intended to use concubine Yen to threaten Yu and make her help him unravel the secret of the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Without concubine Yen, even if he captured Yu this little girl might not be obedient. No wonder you can't beat him. Concubine Yan's pretty face was filled with sympathy. She looked at Xinghun meaningfully. Don't you think that you can't beat him every time? Dustless always manages to take the initiative and turn the tables. So what? I was just lucky. Xinghun snorted, not minding at all. He did not feel that he was inferior to Dustless in any way. That kid is just slightly luckier and has a few more coincidences. Concubine Yen was speechless when she heard Xinghun's answer. This black-bellied and arrogant brat was indeed as arrogant and condescending as the rumors said. Do you really think that some things are coincidences? Concubine Yen was helpless. Yu refused to run away and could only try her best to stall for time, hoping that someone would come to her aid. If Dustless is Zichen, wouldn't all these coincidences be explained? T. Hearing this, Xinghun was enraged. He was so angry that he laughed and reprimanded loudly, Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Who would believe such childish words? Why would the Yinyang school choose an enemy to be the left guardian? But the truth is the truth. Concubine Yen was not surprised by Xinghun's intense reaction. When she had first heard that Zichen was Dustless, she had also been shocked. Her emotional reaction was even greater than Xinghun's. Mother is not lying. Zichen is brother Dustless. Yu suddenly interrupted. Her eyes were bright and her determined tone made Xinghun's face twitch. An enemy outsider had infiltrated the Yinyang school and even become the left guardian, stealing his position. Xinghun's heart was about to jump out of his chest. How ironic was this? Not only that, even Yueshan and Great Si Ming are Dustless's men. Concubine Yen continued to reveal shocking news. No wonder, hearing this, Xinghun surprisingly agreed. He muttered, No wonder Yueshan was so obedient when she returned from the Mo family's mechanical city. She has defected to Dustless and Great Si Ming. Just as I had guessed, she has also become Dustless's lackey. This is outrageous. Now that fellow is going to marry young Si Ming. This is unforgivable. The huge Yinyang school has been taken over by an outsider and become his territory. Xinghun panted heavily. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. He looked like he had suffered a huge blow. No matter what, I have to get rid of you first. Don't think that I don't know that you are stalling for time. Xing Hun looked at concubine Yen coldly and exposed her plan without hesitation. He laughed coldly. Leave with me now. The two of you are my important chess pieces. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Xing Hun turned into a cold black wind and pounced towards concubine Yen and Yu. Concubine Yen and Yu, who had lost their inner energy, could not fight back. Boom boom boom. A violent impact exploded behind Xing Hun. Xing Hun, who was pouncing towards Yu, was also affected by the shockwave. His internal organs were instantly injured. Pfft. Purplish-red blood spurted out of his mouth. Xing Hun turned his head in fear and shouted anxiously, "What kind of powerful move is this? It is so powerful that it can injure me so easily with its aura. How is this possible? What kind of person in this world has reached such a shocking level of inner energy? Xing Han, you bastard. Concubine Yen has already explained everything to you, but you still attacked her and her son. Are you tired of living?" Dustless, who was standing with his hands behind his back, and the elegant young Si Ming walked over slowly. Chapter 1910. Staring at the face so close to him, Xing Hun's face suddenly shrank. He would never forget that hateful face. It was like an imprint that would be buried in his heart forever. "Zichen, you bastard." Xing Hun glared at Dustless. He was so angry that his nose was crooked when he heard Dustless call him a bastard. After all, he was once a guardian of the school of Yin Yang. How dare Dustless call him a bastard? "I will never let you off." Even though he had been severely injured by Dustless's previous attack, Xing Hun stood up stubbornly. Although his body was trembling, he still looked straight into Dustless's deep eyes. "Ah, Zichen, not bad, Xing Han. Even though your spiritual pressure is so weak that it is not worth mentioning, you are still able to stand up. That's worthy of praise." Dustless gave him a thumbs up and praised him. "Are you humiliating me?" Xing Hun was not grateful. Instead, his face was filled with hatred. If Dustless wanted to praise him, he should have praised him properly. Why did he have to say that his spiritual pressure was so weak that it was not worth mentioning? Dustless was obviously looking down on him. "What a joke. Who do you think you are? Do I need to humiliate a stray dog like you? What I said is the truth. It is indeed just a trace of spiritual pressure that is not worth mentioning. If you don't believe me, hee. Boom boom boom. Boundless spiritual pressure exploded. The moment it broke out of his body, the ground that Dustless was standing on crumbled under the powerful impact. The exquisite floorboards danced in the air like dust. Is this guy even human? Concubine Yen and Xiaoxi Ming were shocked. Even though the terrifying aura was not directed at them, they still felt a fatal pressure. It was as if their lives would be taken away at any time. Bam! Xing Hun was the main target of the spiritual pressure. He did not even have the chance to react, let alone resist. He was instantly suppressed. His limbs were on the ground and his face was pressed against the ground. Crack crack crack. The bones in his body were creaking as if they would shatter at any moment. This bastard, where exactly did he get such strength? Even Dong Huangtai might not be his match. Xing Hun was in despair. Feeling the pressure that enveloped his heart, he was disheartened. Dustless was definitely not a human. A mere loser wants to defeat me? It's fine if you have a childish face, but how can you be so pedantic and ignorant? What a retarded child. Dustless sighed and muttered softly, Dong Huangtai actually found a retard to be the left guardian. It seems that the school of Yin Yang is on the verge of extinction. Only in my hands can it flourish again. You're the brainless child. Xing Hun was enraged. Since he had nothing left to lose, he said fearlessly, Damned fellow, so you've been hiding your identity and deceiving us. Despicable bastard. Hide his identity? Xiaoxi Ming glanced at Dustless suspiciously, not understanding what Xing Hun was talking about. Kiki, this is really interesting. It seems like young Master Ming still doesn't know your true identity. Aha, do you need me to help you, Zichen? Xing Huning laughed, his face full of gloating. I'm sorry. I was stalling for time just now, so I... Concubine Yen lowered her head in shame, her eyes filled with regret. In order to stall for time, she had revealed Dustless's true identity. It's all right. Even if you didn't say it, I was planning to tell young Master Ming the truth this time. Dustless smiled at Concubine Yen calmly, indicating that she did not need to take it to heart. He did not care about Xing Hun's threat. He did not intend to hide it from young Master Ming anyway. What should be exposed would be exposed sooner or later. Dustless felt guilty for hiding it from young Master Ming for so long. Young Master Ming? Xing Hun stared deeply at young Master Ming, whose face was covered by a veil, and explained hysterically, "The man in front of you, who is your fiancé Zichen, is the nemesis of the school of Yin Yang, Dustless. Both Moon Goddess and Great Master Ming have become his lackeys. If you really care about the school of Yin Yang, then kill this bastard for me." What? Hearing this, young Master Ming's body trembled, and a strange electric current flashed through her body. She looked at Dustless's indifferent face in disbelief. Hurry up and fight for me." Seeing this, Xing Hun did not say anything. He looked at the scene with interest, enjoying the scene of the fratricide that was about to take place. "Aren't you going to explain?" After a moment of silence, young Master Ming looked at Dustless with her beautiful eyes. There was a hint of sadness in her watery eyes. "I don't need to explain. What he said is the truth. I'm sorry I did lie to you in the past." Dustless could not help but blame himself. At the same time he twisted his face and revealed his true face. A face that was more handsome than Zichen, calm and mature, but young Master Ming hated the most, appeared. The latter's face was filled with despair. Young Master Ming smiled sadly and asked bitterly, "So you've been lying to me in disguise all this time?" "If you want to take revenge on me, I have nothing to say." Dustless was silent. Young Master Ming was not wrong. What was wrong was that he did not have anything to explain. When he had disguised himself as Zichen, Dustless was just playing around. He had never thought that he would marry young Master Ming. It was really full of twists and turns. What happened? Why is it so chaotic? Is there an enemy invasion? At this moment, a voice that faintly contained anger suddenly sounded. It was mysterious and unfathomable. Then a black figure suddenly appeared like a ghost. "This is Dong Huangtai." Seeing the black-robed figure, concubine Yan and Yu both felt despair. However, Xing Hun was overjoyed. He secretly thought that there was a way out. He quickly pointed at Dustless and exposed his disguise. "Lord Dong Huang, Zichen is the greatest threat to our Yin Yang school, Dustless." Chapter 1911. This is Dong Huangtai. Seeing the black-robed man, Imperial concubine Yan and Yu felt hopeless. Xing Hun, on the other hand, was overjoyed. He knew that there was a way out. He quickly pointed at Dustless and exposed his disguise. "Lord Dong Huang, Zichen is the greatest threat to the school of Yin Yang, Dustless." Dong Huangtai's masked face shifted to Dustless's body. No wonder, after carefully observing Dustless for a while, Dong Huangtai let out a long sigh. "At first I thought that you were very strange. I received vague information from the astrology that the Confucian school was about to be destroyed. However, after you joined the Confucian school, it became a sign of prosperity. On the contrary, the school of Yin Yang declined. I already heard about this last time." Dustless pursed his lips and met Dong Huangtai's gaze. He asked, "So what do you think? Do you want to start a war with me?" Dong Huangtai. "How dare you?" The two figures hiding behind Dong Huangtai glared at him. Seeing that Dustless dared to call Dong Huangtai by his name, they were furious. It was as if they had been insulted. These two people were the two great elders of the school of Yin Yang, Xiang Jun and Lady Xiang Huang. Just two lackeys. Dustless did not even look at them. He was not interested in them at all. "Dustless, you have two choices now." Dong Huangtai stared at Dustless for a while and said slowly, "Release Xing Hun now and I can pretend that nothing happened. In the future you will still be the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang." Lord Dong Huang, Xing Hun, Xiang Jun, and Lady Xiang all looked at Dong Huangtai in disbelief. He knew Dustless's true identity, but he still wanted to bring him home. This was clearly inviting a wolf into the house. "What's the second choice?" Dustless asked directly. "The second choice?" Dong Huangtai's tone turned cold. "The second choice is very simple. You can die here." "I die here? You really have the guts to say that?" Dustless looked arrogantly at Dong Huangtai as if he was looking at a piece of trash. He mocked him without restraint. "Sorry, I'm not a tactful person. Moreover, I have a better suggestion." "What suggestion?" Dong Huangtai frowned under the mask and asked calmly. If you accept my offer, I guarantee that the school of Yin Yang will never be destroyed." Dustless laughed, but his cold laughter gave people goosebumps. "How about this, you kill yourself and give me the head of the Yin Yang school?" "Insolent brat, attack." Dong Huangtai didn't say anything. He just gave the order coldly. Following his order, Xiang Jun and Madame Xiang pounced on Dustless. Only Shaoxi Ming didn't move. Young Master Ming. Dong Huangtai saw the hesitant look on young Master Ming's face and his tone turned gloomy. You do it too. Your marriage is now annulled. Kill him. Young Master Ming fell into an unprecedented dilemma. She wanted to make a move on Dustless, but the memories of her past rushed into the depths of her mind, awakening the kindness in her heart. She hesitated for a moment. Take this. Xiang Jun and Madame Xiang pounced forward from the front and back, as if they were going to attack from the front and back. There's no stage for the two of you to join in the fun. There are enough people here. Those who should be eliminated should be eliminated. Dustless released a powerful chakra from his body. He raised both his hands and a wave of air burst out. Shinra Tensei. A perfect 360-degree defense circle was formed. It couldn't be seen by the naked eye, but it was real. Bang, bang, bang. Xiang Jun and Madame Xiang were caught off guard. They didn't even see the defense of the Shinra Tensei and were inevitably sent flying. Crack, crack. Xiang Jun and Madame Xiang smashed through the sliding door, and blood could be seen at the corner of their mouths. Their faces were pale as they looked at Dustless in fear. This bastard didn't even make a move, and he had easily defeated them. Although it was just a simple move, it was extremely difficult for them to stand up. Young Master Ming, you don't have to be troubled. After dealing with Xiang Jun and Madame Xiang, Dustless looked at Dong Huangtai with a cunning and sinister smile. What's this guy up to? Seeing Dustless's sinister smile, Dong Huangtai's heart skipped a beat, and a bad feeling rose in his heart. Young Master Ming, the Dong Huangtai in your eyes, is an impostor. Dustless's words were like a gale and torrential rain, making everyone choke with thunder, their heads spinning. The person in front of them was obviously the real Dong Huangtai. What did he mean by impostor? Are you crazy? Who would impersonate me? Who would dare? Dong Huangtai looked at Dustless strangely. What a joke. On the elusive mirage in the territory of the Yin-Yang school, who would dare to impersonate him? He must be tired of living, and he even pretended to be the real one. If I say you are an impostor, then you are an impostor. What's there to argue about? Dustless said casually. At the same time he looked around with a cold gaze, full of warning. However, Xinghun wasn't afraid of death. He sneered and said, Impostor? Ha ha, your head. Xinghun's words stopped abruptly. He looked up and saw the scarlet eternal kaleidoscope locked onto him. If he said anything wrong he would lose his life. Yes, this guy is the impostor Dong Huangtai. At the crucial moment, Xinghun decisively betrayed Dong Huangtai and nodded his head furiously. Anyway, Dong Huangtai had stripped him of his position as a guardian, and Xinghun was filled with hatred. Xinghun, you bastard. Dong Huangtai almost suffocated to death. He pointed at Xinghun with a trembling finger, wishing he could slap this kid who was full of nonsense to death. Chapter 1912. Xinghun, are you out of your mind? This is the real Lord Dong Huang. Xiangjuan and Madame Xiang shouted angrily. It was fine if Dustless was being unreasonable, but why was Xinghun following in his nonsense? Dong Huangtai's unique tone and powerful aura could not be faked. This fellow is really good at making false claims? Xiangjuan and Madame Xiang looked at each other, their hearts in a haze. From Dustless's display of power, the Yin-Yang school might really have a change of master today. Xinghun, I will give you one more chance. Take back what you said just now. Dong Huangtai was obviously angry. It was fine if Dustless was spouting nonsense, but even Xinghun, whom he had trusted, was singing a different tune. This was a slap in the face. Dream on. Xinghun snorted indifferently and said with hatred, Dustless is not a good person. I know that. You too. Huff huff huff. Xinghun's breathing suddenly sped up. He recalled his tragic past and shouted angrily, I have served the Yin-Yang school for so many years. Because of a groundless accusation, my guardian position was removed. Dong Huangtai, go ahead and play. I will not accompany you. If it was in the past, Xinghun would know what to do without Dong Huangtai's orders. But, after the previous incident, Xinghun saw Dong Huangtai's true colors. In order to win over Dustless, this fellow found a random reason to remove his guardian position and gave it to Dustless. Since then Xinghun had lost all hope in the Yin-Yang school. He worked tirelessly but in the end his reputation was ruined. He was bitterly disappointed. Is that so? So you hate me so much? Since that is the case then, Dong Huangtai lowered his voice and dashed in front of Xing Hun. The air blade in his hand was already grabbing towards Xing Hun's neck. You want to kill someone in front of me? Seeing this, Dustless laughed coldly and grabbed towards Xing Hun. Get over here, Wanxiang Heavenly Attraction. Just as the air blade was about to cut Xing Hun's head, an irresistible gravitational force suddenly descended. Dong Huangtai's hand was forced to retract. One who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune in the future. Xing Hun heaved a sigh of relief and revealed a relaxed smile. Xing Hun was not celebrating his life. To be honest, he did not fear death. He just wanted to see Dustless and Dong Huangtai kill each other's fight. It would be best if they could all of them together on their lives' way. What move is this move? Under the influence of the gravitational force, Dong Huangtai realized that he was unable to control his own body. Dong Huangtai was slightly shocked. In the past he had heard that Wu Chen was very strange. Now that he had seen it for himself, he finally understood why Xing Hun had lost to him time and time again. As the moment the Eastern Emperor Tai was in his hand, Wu Chen activated the ability of the glint fruit. A large amount of light condensed in his hand. Heavenly Sword of Clouds. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At the moment when the golden sword was formed, Wu Chen waved his blade decisively. The deadly blade went straight to Dong Huangtai's head. He wanted to decapitate this guy who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and liked to be mysterious. Lord Dong Huang. Sorrowful cries came from Xiang Jun and Madame Xiang. They almost burst into tears as they watched Dong Huangtai being killed by Dustless. The radiance of the heavenly swords sliced Dong Huangtai's body easily. However, it did not decapitate him as expected. The moment it sliced his body, it turned into a large amount of golden radiance. Witnessing this scene, Dustless recalled the elemental transformation of the heavenly sword's fruit. It was almost exactly the same. No, this is Soul Dragon Swim. Squinting his eyes, Dustless immediately said the name of the move that Dong Huangtai used. He was secretly shocked. I did not expect Soul Dragon Swim to be used in such a way. No wonder Dong Huangtai is the leader of the Yin-Yang school. Even Yueshin and Xing Hun could not do it to this extent. Yueshin and Xing Hun could use Soul Dragon Swim, but this Dong Huangtai in front of him was abnormal. In that instant, he turned his body into Soul Dragon Swim. It was similar to the elemental transformation of the Logia Devil Fruit, but there was a difference in essence. Anyway, the principle was similar and he used it to avoid the fatal attack. The great Tao of Yin and Yang Wuji Tai. Do you think I became the leader of the Yin-Yang school just because I said so? The floating golden radiance gathered again, revealing Dong Huangtai who was unharmed. Pfft. Wu Chen spat out a mouthful of saliva in an ungentlemanly manner. He was deliberately being naughty. The speed of his spit was unbelievably fast. This scene came too suddenly, causing Dong Huangtai to be attacked head-on. His entire body was covered with saliva. Bullsh *T Dong Huangtai, do you really think you can control the world and do whatever you want? Look at your stupid face, I think you should be called Saliva Tai. Dustless laughed loudly without restraint, but the others were on tenterhooks. Dustless's actions had completely angered this Yin-Yang school's super big shot. B****, since you want to be torn into pieces so badly, I will fulfill your wish. Dong Huangtai was enraged. Purple air blades shot out from his hands. The density was 10 times higher than Xing Hun's. Since Dong Huangtai was the Yin-Yang school's boss, he naturally knew how to use most of the skills. For example, Soul Dragon Swim, and Condensing Air Blades. Dong Huangtai knew how to use them, and he was more familiar with them than Yueshin and Xing Hun. You think too highly of yourself. Dustless's eyes focused on the terrifying purple air blades. He suddenly shouted, Heavenly Reflection. Boom, boom, boom. Boundless black flames ignited in the air, instantly evaporating and devouring the air blades. At the same time, the flames spread towards Dong Huangtai's body at a terrifying speed. Chapter 1913. Black Flame? Dong Huangtai was also shocked. This was the first time he had seen such a flame. What a terrifying temperature. Dong Huangtai was in awe. Now that he was so close to the heavenly reflection, he felt a lot of emotions. Without hesitation, he retracted his chi blade to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. His body shook as Dong Huangtai retreated decisively, distancing himself from the ferocious flame. Master Dong Huang is retreating? Young Master Ming and the rest were shocked. In their minds, Dong Huangtai was invincible and omnipotent. He had always been in control of everything. Now that he was forced to retreat by Dustless, their impression of him was greatly reduced. Skull blood palm. Dong Huangtai skillfully made a few hand seals with both hands. A blood-red skull was formed in an instant and flew towards Dustless at an extremely fast speed. Because it was too fast, Dustless was caught off guard and was severely injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood. You bastard! Dustless looked at Dong Huangtai in despair. His face was pale. Finally, he closed his eyes unwillingly and fell to the ground. He died without even breathing. You want to fight me? Too weak. Dong Huangtai sneered. He did not even look at Dustless. Just as he was about to turn and leave, a mournful scream was heard. Xiangjuan. Lady Xiang, who was quite pretty, screamed in despair. Her voice was filled with endless screams. What happened? Dong Huangtai stopped when he heard the mournful scream. He turned around and saw the lifeless Lady Xiang lying on the ground where Dustless died. Hee hee. At the same time, an ear-piercing laughter was suddenly heard. Dong Huangtai's expression changed drastically as he looked towards the source of the laughter. It was Wu Qin who was smirking. This guy is not dead? Dong Huangtai was dumbfounded and his eyeballs almost fell out. He saw Wu Qin spit out blood and died after being hit by the bloody skeleton handprint. However, when he looked at the place where Wu Qin died, the dead person turned out to be Xiang Jun. Master Dong Huang. Suppressing the hatred in her heart, Lady Xiang asked in a low voice, "Why did you kill my husband? Did he do anything wrong?" Dong Huangtai was furious and scolded loudly, "I killed Dustless. Why would I kill Lady Xiang, who is loyal to the sect of Yin Yang? Don't talk nonsense." "You are the one is talking nonsense." Madame Xiang was so angry that she laughed and said without showing any weakness, "Dong Huangtai, do you think everyone is an idiot? Everyone saw you kill my husband. If you don't believe me, you can ask them." How is that possible? Dong Huangtai shook his head in denial. He saw him kill Dustless. How could Lady Xiang be dead? Confused, he looked at young Master Ming and asked, "Did I kill Lady Xiang?" Young Master Ming nodded without saying a word. Damn it. Dong Huangtai cursed in his heart. He pointed at Wu Qin furiously and roared, "Wu Qin, you must have used an illusion on me to give me an illusion. Ayaya. They say that dogs will bite people when they are driven mad. Today I see that it is true. Dong Huangtai, everyone saw you kill Xiangjuan with their own eyes, and now you want to slander me and throw dirty water on my head? This method of framing is too vulgar. The eyes of the people are clear." Dustless looked at Dong Huangtai sarcastically. However, he was very happy. Even though Dong Huangtai was wearing a mask, Dustless could imagine his old face turning green. In fact, Dustless used his eye power to control Dong Huangtai, causing him to hallucinate. Then Lady Xiang became Dustless. "Give me an explanation. Why did you kill my husband?" Lady Xiang looked at Dong Huangtai coldly and secretly gathered her inner energy. Explanation. Pay attention to your identity. I am Dong Huangtai, the leader of the school of Yin Yang. Dong Huangtai groaned. Madame Xiang actually dared to question him. She was clearly offending her superior. Dong Huangtai didn't give her any face and said, "No matter what, she is already dead. Even if she was accidentally killed by me, she died a worthy death." You. Lady Xiang was not the only one who felt miserable. Even young Master Si Ming was touched. Dong Huangtai's coldness and arrogance made everyone uncomfortable. I have said it before. This guy is not Dong Huangtai. He is an imposter. The real Dong Huangtai has been killed by this bastard. Everyone let's surround him and take revenge. Dustless continued to instigate with evil intentions. Bastard, let's see who dares to do it. Dong Huangtai was extremely angry. He released his powerful aura and no one dared to act rashly. Gentlemen, at this moment Yueshin and Great Si Ming suddenly arrived. When they saw the messy situation and Dong Huangtai, who was obviously at a disadvantage, a strange look flashed across their eyes. Yueshin and Great Si Ming, you came at the right time. Dong Huangtai was overjoyed. He quickly said in a commanding tone, "Tell these traitors that I am the real Dong Huangtai, the leader of the school of Yin Yang. There is only one Dong Huangtai in this world." Everyone turned to look at Yueshin and Great Si Ming. Yueshin and Great Si Ming looked at each other. Yueshin suddenly took a step forward and pointed at Dong Huangtai. Everyone he is, ha! Dong Huangtai laughed proudly. Yueshin's arrival could naturally prove his identity. Dustless's scheme would be exposed. But who would have thought that Yueshin's words would send him to the 18th level of hell? The real Dong Huangtai is dead. This guy is an imposter. Dong Huangtai left a message saying that he will pass the position of the leader of the school of Yinyang to Dustless. The other members of the school of Yinyang were shocked. They did not expect Dong Huangtai to be killed, but the masked Dong Huangtai was so angry that he vomited blood. Imposter my ass. Even if he was the real Dong Huangtai, he did not say that he would pass the position to Dustless. Chapter 1914. Yueshin, you bastard. Dong Huangtai was enraged. It was fine if the others betrayed him, but the Yueshin was even more important to Dong Huangtai than Xinghan and Dustless. Yet she betrayed him for no reason. Hee. Dustless saw Dong Huangtai's constipated face. Cough cough cough. Now we can confirm that this guy is an imposter, and I. Dustless patted his chest and said in high spirits, and I will inherit the school of Yinyang. Let's get rid of the culprit who killed Lord Dong Huang together. Great Si Ming, do you think so too? Dong Huangtai had no choice but to look at Dong Huangtai for help. He never expected that he would be betrayed by everyone. However, what happened next proved Dong Huangtai's guess. He was just asking for humiliation. I can testify that this guy is an imposter. Great Si Ming answered without hesitation. He was even more decisive than the Yueshin. After all, she had already slept with Dustless and had become Dustless's woman. Stop spouting nonsense. Don't try to mislead the crowd. You bunch of traitors from the school of Yinyang. Dong Huangtai reprimanded loudly. Just as he was about to explain, Madame Xiang pounced on him and attacked him mercilessly. How dare you? Seeing this, Dong Huangtai flew into a rage. He was completely infuriated. A terrifying aura exploded from his body. Since you bunch of traitors treat me like this, I will kill all of you and rebuild the school of Yinyang. Even though no one could see Dong Huangtai's face clearly, they could tell from his voice that he was really infuriated. Among the 5 elders and 2 guardians, other than Yun Zhongjuan who was nowhere to be found, the rest had all betrayed Dong Huangtai. How could he not be angry? Kill us? Then you shall die first. Madame Xiang pounced on him. To her, it didn't matter if Dong Huangtai was an imposter or not. This guy had killed her husband. He must die. And you want to shake the heavens and the earth? What a joke. Seeing Lady Xiang pouncing towards him, Dong Huangtai sneered. He stared at the arm that was slapping towards him. His internal energy surged as he struck out with his palm. Both of their palms collided. Puchi. After all, this was the big boss of the Yinyang school. Dong Huangtai's strength was absolute. He easily dealt a heavy blow to Madame Xiang and sent her flying with a palm strike. Madame Xiang coughed out blood. Seeing this, the Yinyang school's people were terrified. This was Dong Huangtai's true strength. Even when facing an elder, he could easily suppress or even kill them. Get out of the way, let me do it. Dustless looked at Dong Huangtai coldly and sneered. It's true that others are ants, but in my eyes, you are also an ant. Dong Huangtai snorted and said, Don't be so arrogant. I'll teach you a lesson. Swish, swish. Just as he finished speaking, Dong Huangtai pounced over with golden light all over his body. His body was surrounded by a large amount of sacred golden light, which gradually turned into a strange image. This is a dragon? Yueshin and the rest squinted their eyes, especially Yueshin and Xinghan. They were shocked by Dong Huangtai's proficiency in controlling the soul dragon. The two of them were far from being able to do this. There's a good show to watch now. You two perverts better perish together. Xinghan chuckled with a gloating smile on his face. You overestimate yourselves? Seeing Dong Huangtai pouncing towards him and the huge dragon head that was formed by the soul dragon, Xinghan sneered. Ka ka ka. Dustless straightened his thumb and a dazzling light burst out from the tip of his finger. Die Dong Huangtai, you annoying bug. Dowbreaker 88, Flying Dragon Strikes Thief, Sky-Shaking Thunder Cannon. A thick flash of light burst out and shot towards the sky. It instantly destroyed Dong Huangtai's body. Even the entire elusive mirage shook violently and a huge hole was created. Bang bang bang. After receiving a fatal attack, Dong Huangtai and the soul dragon around him were instantly crushed. They turned into light and dissipated in the air. However, what was troubling was that Dong Huang Tai's collapsed body reformed again after a short while. This guy. I didn't expect him to be so difficult to deal with, Dustless muttered. This was the first time he had encountered such a mysterious and special ability. So what if you're powerful? What can you do to me? Seeing Dustless's surprised face, Dong Huang Tai laughed proudly and said, Tao is natural and mysterious. The great Tao is formless. Wuji Tai. Mysterious and mysterious? Dustless sneered and said contemptuously, it's just an unorthodox Tao. How dare you say it's mysterious? You're really too naive. After all, you're just a frog at the bottom of a well. As soon as his voice fell, Dustless's face turned cold. You've worked so hard for Yinyang School for so many years. It's not very kind to kill you. I'll give you a ticket to travel. Dustless smiled sinisterly. His eyes rotated rapidly and turned into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. These eyes, Dong Huang Tai immediately had a bad feeling. When he killed Xiangjuan inexplicably just now, he happened to see these evil eyes by chance. As a result, Xiangjuan was killed by him without any warning. Kamui! Dustless suddenly shouted. The space around Dong Huang Tai suddenly distorted and quickly swallowed his body. This is bad. Noticing the abnormality of his body, Dong Huang Tai panicked. Chapter 1915. At first, Dong Huang Tai thought that Wu Chen was helpless against him and was just bluffing. However, as the mysterious space started to distort violently, Dong Huang Tai realized that he was wrong. What's going on? Dong Huang Tai turned his head and looked at the distorted space in horror. His heart was in his throat and could jump out at any time. Ka. The space was torn apart by some mysterious energy, and it was constantly swallowing his body, and it was about to swallow him whole. I have to think of a way. Dong Huang Tai's heart was cold, and he didn't have the strength to deal with such a strange ability. He found that if he used Soul Dragon, the light born in his body would be absorbed, and it would only accelerate his death. Do you understand how small you are now? Hearing Dong Huang Tai's panicked tone, Dustless said calmly, Goodbye. Dream on, even if I die, I will drag you down with me. Dong Huang Tai roared, and all his true chi burst out from his body to resist the void behind him to prevent himself from being swallowed. Final struggle. Seeing this, Dustless looked disdainful, and his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan blinked gently, and his eye power burst out again. However, due to the limitations of the situation, Dustless didn't dare to use all his eye power, otherwise Yueshin and others would also be swallowed. The Kamui that Dustless got from Obito was extremely powerful, and Dustless' eye power was too terrifying, and it didn't distinguish between friend and foe, and there was no limit to the eruption of eye power, and a little carelessness could swallow everyone. Even the entire mirage would be sucked into the dimensional space. This was not a casual statement. As the ten-tailed beast, its dustless eye power could be said to be endless and boundless. If not for the fact that Dong Huang Tai had some scruples at the moment and that the situation was unfavorable to him, he would not have been able to maintain it for even a moment. Ka. The distorted space behind Dong Huang Tai continued to expand, and a small hole gradually appeared, like a black hole, emitting a huge gravitational force swallowing everything. So strong. Moon God and the others were all shocked. Their bodies could not help but move toward the twisted space. They tried their best to resist. Although Dustless was not targeting them, they still felt a deadly pressure. Moon God, Great Sea Ming and Imperial Concubine Yen were sure that if Dustless increased his power, they would be devoured as well. Oh no. At this moment, Dong Huang Tai suddenly realized that his right arm had been swallowed. He immediately felt a chill run down his spine as he struggled with all his might. You're just an ant trying to shake the heavens. You overestimate yourself. Seeing this, Dustless sneered and blinked again. Puchi. The power of the divine might was too strong, and the black hole was like the giant mouth of an invisible monster. It tore apart Dong Huang Tai's right arm. Ah, my right hand. Dong Huang Tai cried out in pain. His right arm was bleeding profusely, and the wound was badly mutilated. Taking a closer look, he saw that his entire right arm had been swallowed by the Shin Wei. It was a miserable sight. Damn Dustless. Even if I die, I will drag all of you down with me. Dong Huang Tai, who had been driven mad, looked at everyone coldly and finally fixed his gaze on young Si Ming. Kiki, you two are so close. Since that is the case, young Si Ming will die with me. Dong Huang Tai seemed to have gone mad. His cold voice made young Si-Ming despair. Of course she was not afraid of death. What made young Si-Ming sad was that she had worked hard for the school of Yin-Yang for so many years. She had always thought of the school of Yin-Yang and was extremely loyal to Dong Huangtai. Even when others said that Dong Huangtai was a fake, young Si-Ming turned a deaf ear to it. In her heart, Dong Huangtai was the leader of the school of Yin-Yang. What made young Si-Ming break down was that if others wanted to kill her, she would feel better. But at this moment, Dong Huangtai, whom she trusted the most, was so cold and heartless. She finally understood how sad Xing-Hun was when he was betrayed by Dong Huangtai. Come here. Dong Huangtai made a grabbing motion with his left arm. Young Si-Ming immediately flew over and was tightly bound by Dong Huangtai. Her beautiful face turned pale. Young Si-Ming gritted her teeth. Her right arm was grabbed by Dong Huangtai and she could not resist. Even though he only had his left arm left, Dong Huangtai's strength was still beyond imagination. Haha, die with me. Dong Huangtai did not resist anymore. His body floated into the God Might space. He was about to be completely devoured and die with young Si-Ming. Just as he was about to step onto the path of death, the irresistible devouring force suddenly stopped, and the distorted space also returned to its original calm state. Let go of young Si-Ming and get the hell out of here. After staring at young Si-Ming for a while, Dustless finally looked at Dong Huangtai and said coldly, "Before I change my mind, you better disappear." Haha. Dong Huangtai immediately laughed arrogantly and said, "You actually gave up a good chance to kill me for a woman. This stupid decision will make you regret it for the rest of your life." Regret it for the rest of my life? Glancing at Dong Huangtai casually, Dustless said calmly, "Do you think you can make a comeback? I have already crippled one of your arms and you have even lost your position as the head of the Yin-Yang family. You are just a stray dog now. It's a small world. We still have a long way to go. Just wait and see." Dong Huangtai snorted angrily and left angrily. Aren't you being too reckless? Great Si-Ming and Moon God came over and said unhappily, "Letting the tiger go back to the mountain will be a big problem in the future. Is it really worth it for young Si-Ming?" "Yes, it is a tiger. But it is a dying tiger," Dustless replied casually. A tiger's most powerful weapon, its fangs, were all crushed and one of its legs was broken. Could not even eat. What threat could it pose? Moreover, Dustless did feel guilty towards young Si-Ming. Chapter 1916. Yes, it's a tiger. It's just a sick tiger. Dustless replied nonchalantly. If a tiger's most powerful weapon, its fangs, were all crushed and one of its legs was broken, it couldn't even eat. What threat could it pose? Moreover, Dustless did feel guilty towards young Master Ming. Before he left, Dong Huangtai didn't forget to look back at the elusive mirage. As the head of the school of Yin-Yang, he was actually chased out by a group of underlings. Humans are not what they used to be. The world is so cold. With a sigh, Dong Huangtai finally disappeared in loneliness. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. "Kid, do you think you're very lucky?" In one of the cells, Dustless smiled at the dispirited Xing-Hun and teased, "Former guardian, why do you look so gloomy? Aren't you very lucky to be alive?" "Dustless, what are you trying to do?" Xing-Hun looked at Dustless with an unfriendly expression and said fearlessly, "Kill me if you have the guts. I promise I won't even stab my eyes." "Kill you? That's a pity. You still have some value." Dustless glanced at Xing-Hun and said with a smile, "A few days ago the Mo family seized the Black Dragon dossier. The content was about the 18th of next month, the first Emperor's Eastern tour." "Nonsense." Xing-Hun immediately retorted. "Why haven't I heard of Ying Zheng's Eastern tour? Don't try to lie to me. I can't deny that this is a scam." Dustless didn't deny it. He nodded and said, "The person who is going to replace Ying Zheng is you, Xing-Hun. How can I let you die now? If you want to die, you'll die later." "You bastard, you're still trying to use me?" Xing-Hun was furious and immediately stood up. He didn't know where he got the strength to shout, "You won't even let a lowly prisoner go. How despicable are you?" "Despicable? We're the same. You have no right to criticize me." Dustless glanced at Xing-Hun and left lazily. The special room that Dong Huangtai usually stayed in. The structure of the room was different from the others. The ceiling was made up of countless special materials that resembled stars, emitting a mysterious blue light. The floor beneath his feet was the same, as if the sky was filled with twinkling stars. He had the illusion that he was in the universe. However, the place where Dong Huangtai usually sat was now occupied by Dustless. At this moment he was taking a nap with his eyes closed, looking quite leisurely. Seriously, in the end I still became the head of the Yin-Yang school. Sighing, Wu Qin opened his eyes and saw the moon god, Great Si Ming and concubine Yen. Of course there was also Yun Zhongjuan, Madame Xiang, and the young Yu who was blinking her eyes. After Dong Huangtai left the Yin-Yang school, it was impossible for this huge sect to disappear just like that. Hence, Dustless became the sect master. Dustless did not refuse. The Yin-Yang school was responsible for helping the Qin kingdom to get rid of the rebels and plundering the 7 constellations of the Azure Dragon. This was also in line with Dustless's interests. Hence, there was no harm in becoming the sect master. Dustless becoming the new head of the Yin-Yang school was what everyone wanted. The group of Yin-Yang school members who were standing now all agreed. After all, this world respected the strong. Dong Huangtai was not as good as Dustless, so he could only give up his position. Where's young Master Ming? Dustless frowned when he did not find any trace of young Master Ming. I've informed her, but young Master Ming did not come. Moon God showed a helpless expression. Forget it. Dustless waved his hand and did not bother to care. He stared at concubine Yen and said, Concubine Yen is no longer a sinner of the Yin-Yang school. She will return to her previous position. As for the next goal, she will be responsible for finding the 7 constellations of the Azure Dragon and assisting the Qin kingdom. And Dustless's gaze fell on Yun Zhongjuan's head. He ordered, You must develop the elixir of immortality as soon as possible. Don't let me down. Sure. Hearing this, Yun Zhongjuan nodded quickly. Thinking of Dustless's terrifying strength, he felt a chill. Even his former boss had been turned into a stray dog by this guy, let alone him. He'd better be obedient. The next main task. Dustless narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a sinister smile, The next step is to annex the Confucian school. Also, the news that I have become the head of the Yin-Yang school must not be told to anyone. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy. Annex the Confucian school? This will take a long time. The moon goddess frowned. She looked at Wu Chen's flickering eyes, which were full of cold killing intent. Moon god, this is very simple. If Fun Yen and the second head, Yen Lu, are both dead, I, the third head of the Confucian school, will naturally replace them. Wouldn't this huge problem be completely solved? Fun Yen's original intention was to use Dustless and young Master Ming Liani to take advantage of the power of the School of Nutrition to become the head of the 100 schools of thought. The Confucian school even wanted to occupy the world. Their ambition was not small, but it was too far away. There is also the matter of eliminating the Mo family and Wei Zhuang and Lu Sha. Dustless smiled maliciously and said, Those guys still don't know that I have become the head of the Yin-Yang school. I can take advantage of the Black Dragon dossier incident to eliminate them in one fell swoop. As for Duanmu Rong and Snow Lady, Dustless muttered to himself, the Yin-Yang school under my rule is more suitable for them. As for the others, they should just disappear and purify the air. Chapter 1917. As for the life and death of the other members of the Mo family, this was not something Dustless could interfere with. Anyway, everyone had different standpoints and it was inevitable that they would meet on the battlefield. There was no right or wrong between them. It was just that their philosophies and values were different. You mean to kill Fun Yen and the second head of the Confucian school, Yen Lu? This is indeed the fastest and most effective way. All the confusion will disappear. Moon Goddess agreed. When people died, everything would disappear, and Dustless would naturally become the master of the Confucian school. Who is suitable to kill Fun Yen? Moon Goddess asked with a frown. The Yin-Yang school did not seem suitable. The Confucian school and the Yin-Yang school were about to form a marriage alliance. If they were to kill Fun Yen and Yen Lu now, wouldn't they be criticized? This is very simple. Dustless suddenly laughed sinisterly. This kind of thing can be left to me, the spy. It is easy to dodge an open spear, but hard to guard against a hidden arrow. I am the most suitable person to quietly eliminate the two of them. Even though Dustless was the third head of the Confucian school, he had no power and was just a puppet. In Dustless's opinion, why did Fun Yen choose him as the third head of the Confucian school to form a marriage alliance with young Master Ming? To put it bluntly, he was just using him to make the Confucian school prosper. That brat dared to use me. He must pay the price. Dustless sneered. He was not a gentleman if he did not take revenge. It was good enough that Fu Nian was able to live for so long. As for Yen Lu, although the two of them did not have a deep grudge, their standpoints were different after all. Moreover, this fellow often supported Zhang Liang, and Wu Chen and Zhang Liang had fought openly and secretly many times. Yen Lu could be considered to have died on the right path. Okay, the battle plan ends here. What other doubts do you have? Say it all. Dustless's gaze swept past the elders of the Yinyang school. He lay on the seat that Dong Huangtai used to sit in comfortably. Everyone looked at each other. In the end, concubine Yen took the lead and said, Xing Hun killed my husband Yen Dan. Now that we have captured him, why don't we kill him? This. Dustless took a sip of tea, raised a finger and promised, Xing Hun will die within a month. That's more like it. Concubine Yen breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. A rare bright smile appeared on her face. As for Yu who was standing beside concubine Yen, she didn't care. She didn't even react. Yu had always hated Yen Dan. After all, it was Yen Dan who had abandoned her and her mother. Especially after she found out that Yen Dan was her father, Yu was filled with disgust towards Yen Dan, and her feelings towards the Mo family gradually faded. I have a question. This time the one who spoke was Great Si Ming. He said bluntly, why should we listen to Qin State's arrangement? It is completely unnecessary. We can even overthrow them and establish our own regime. The people from the school of Yinyang were silent. In fact, this was what they wanted to ask. There was no need for them to cooperate with the Qin kingdom and even help them eliminate the remaining evil. With the strength of the school of Yinyang, it would not be a problem to kick Qin Shi Huang off the throne. Most importantly, I'm not interested in becoming an emperor. I'm more like destroying the world. As for ruling a country, forget about it. Dustless shrugged and gave an answer that made everyone not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not have the ability to be an emperor. Huff, huff, huff. Inside young Master Ming's room, it was warm and filled with a very elegant fragrance. It was very similar to young Master Ming's body scent. The clean and light fragrance made people unable to stop themselves from taking a few more sniffs. Are you here to execute me? Young Master Ming turned around and looked at the person who came. Her eyes were filled with coldness. I just changed my appearance. I'm still the same person. Dustless heard young Master Ming's cold tone and felt a slight headache. He explained patiently, we are still on the same side. There is no need to treat me like an outsider. On the same side? Young Master Ming glanced at Dustless indifferently and said softly, if you really treat me as one of your own, why did you use the disguise technique? Dustless was speechless. He could only quibble, if I meet you with my real appearance, are you sure you won't attack me and kill me? Young Master Ming raised her eyebrows slightly. Her cold tone softened a bit. She snorted, you are still as eloquent and cunning as before. There is a chance. Dustless chuckled in his mind. He tried to persuade her, back then I was still a wanted criminal and you were one of the 5 elders of School of Yinyang. Of course we would fight to the death. I had no choice but to meet you with Zichen's identity. Now that you have won and become the headmaster of School of Yinyang, what are you going to do with me? Looking at Dustless calmly, young Master Ming said, back then you didn't have to care about me. As long as Dong Huangtai and I were dead, School of Yinyang would be under your control. Does it matter? Even if you and Dong Huangtai were still alive, School of Yinyang would still be under my control. As for letting Dong Huangtai save you. Looking at young Master Ming's cold face with a complicated expression, Dustless said frankly, it was just an instinctive reaction. Instinctive reaction? Young Master Ming sighed and said, I am a bit surprised by your words. I don't think I am that important in your heart. In terms of strength, I am not as powerful as Moon God. In terms of loyalty, I am not as loyal as Great Si Ming. You can't say it like that. Dustless shook his head. He paused for a while and said, everyone is different. It is because you are different from them that you are unique. If everyone is the same, what is the difference between you and a zombie? You really know how to enlighten people. Young Master Ming looked at Dustless in surprise. She didn't expect him to be so good at talking. The resistance she had for Dustless lying to her had disappeared a lot. Of course. Seeing young Master Ming's relaxed face, Dustless was secretly proud. After all, he had lived for hundreds of years. His talking skills were naturally at the level of the creator. Chapter 1918. You liar. Don't try to lie to me anymore. Don't think that I don't know. At this moment, Xiao Ximing suddenly said something out of the blue which stunned Dustless. What did I lie to you about? Dustless asked hesitantly. It was just an identity. Was there anything else that he didn't tell Xiao Ximing? Xiao Ximing snorted and frowned her delicate nose. Then she said, Moon God and Great Ximing were on your side that day. To be honest, I was shocked. They have been your people for a long time, right? Oh, so that's why. Hearing this, Dustless was enlightened. He smiled and said, It's better to be safe than sorry. It's never a bad idea to rope in a few more friends, especially people like you. People like me? Xiao Ximing was slightly surprised. She looked at Dustless in confusion and asked, Could it be that I have an advantage over Moon God and Great Ximing? That's not it. Every one of you has your own characteristics. Dustless shook his head and said softly, All in all, what's your choice? You saw what happened that day. Although you're very loyal to Dong Huangtai, that guy is evil. You're just cannon fodder and chess pieces to him. You're right. Hearing Ji Hao's words, Xiao Ximing gave a bitter smile and said sadly, Only after what happened last time did I realize that all members of the school of Yin Yang were nothing but goods in his eyes, including us, elders and protectors. We were disposable. That's right. The Yin Yang school under my rule is finally back on track. Dustless nodded in agreement. You. Hearing this, Xiao Ximing rolled her eyes at Dustless and complained, So after all this time, you just want to use Dong Huangtai to set off your nobility. That's the truth. Dustless stared at Xiao Ximing's pretty face and asked, If you want to stay, my door will always be open for you. As for leaving, I won't stop you. However, changing the topic, Dustless continued, I think it's better for you to stay in the school of Yin Yang. If you travel alone, you'll attract unnecessary trouble. Quicksand, Mahist, and other sects all view the school of Yin Yang as a thorn in their side. They want nothing more than to get rid of them as soon as possible. Moreover, someone as beautiful as you will definitely be targeted by lechers if you leave the Yin Yang family. Therefore, it's better for you to continue staying in the Yin Yang family. You obviously said that on purpose. Young Master Ming was instantly speechless. Dustless had already said so, could she still leave? Immediately, he let out a long sigh and said, Since everyone agrees that you are the new leader, I have nothing to be dissatisfied with. Xiao Ximing had no choice but to admit defeat. Your choice is definitely the wisest one. Hearing this, Dustless was overjoyed. He couldn't help but stroke young Arbiter Ming's purple hair. Don't touch me. Sensing Dustless approaching and rubbing his body against hers, young Master Ming's lips twitched. At this moment, a strange feeling swept across her heart. The words that she was going to scold Dustless suddenly became soft and coquettish. Young Master Ming's face immediately turned red. She was quite embarrassed. Why are you being so formal? We are engaged to begin with. Have you forgotten that Dong Huangtai has already betrothed you to me? Plus, we have slept on the same bed. Dustless chuckled and approached young Master Ming again. In the end, he took an inch and wanted a mile. Finally, he hugged her slim waist. Nonsense. Have you forgotten that Dong Huangtai has already been expelled by you? Of course his words don't count. Young Master Ming didn't appreciate it. She looked annoyed, but when she heard Dustless continue to accept this marriage, she couldn't help but show a little dimple on her face. It was very cute. However, this scene only lasted for a moment. Dustless didn't notice it. How is this nonsense? You are my fiancé. That is a fact. Dustless said seriously, plus I am thinking for your sake. Thinking for my sake. Young Master Ming turned her head and looked at Dustless in confusion. She asked, This is obviously you bullying me. How did it become thinking for my sake? No. Dustless showed an unprecedented shameless expression and said seriously, If our marriage is really over, I am a thick-skinned man. Of course, it doesn't matter if no one is pointing fingers at me. But what about you? Others will definitely say that I am the one who divorced you. How can I bear to see a young lady being pointed at behind her back? So, I can only sacrifice myself and give up my own happiness. For your sake, I will continue to accept this marriage. Pfft. Young Master Ming was stunned by Dustless's words. This guy's level of shamelessness was rarely seen in this world. His shameless words made people speechless. She couldn't find any loopholes. He must have gotten used to it after a long time. You scoundrel. Young Master Ming glared at Dustless with dissatisfaction and turned her head away. She didn't want to look at Dustless anymore. You call me a scoundrel? Dustless pretended to be angry. He took a deep breath of young Master Ming's elegant body fragrance. Finally he got close to her ear and blew a breath of hot air. Young Master Ming's pale earlobe suddenly itched and she started to panic. Now I will show you how scoundrel I am. As soon as he finished speaking, Wuxia attacked young Master Ming's thin lips. In the blink of an eye, he sealed young Master Ming's mouth. Young Master Ming was stunned. She didn't expect Dustless to be so daring. She started to struggle violently. However, to Dustless, young Master Ming's strength was not worth mentioning. On the contrary, sometimes resistance and struggle could arouse a man's desire to conquer. It would make him more interested than usual. It would make him drool. Chapter 1919. When he woke up again, it was already the morning of the next day. Damn it, what's going on? Dustless's head was so swollen that it felt like it was going to split open. Yesterday he had accidentally crossed the line and finally tore off the last layer of clothing with young Master Ming. What a sin! Looking at the obvious bloodstains on the bedding, Dustless felt awkward. In his mind, he suddenly recalled the crazy scene last night and couldn't help but smile bitterly. No matter what kind of creature it is, they are all controlled by their subconscious desires. Wuxia sighed. When he saw young Master Si Ming's half-naked body, he picked up the blanket and covered her body. Looking at young Master Ming's body, Dustless's heart was itching again. The rosy white body aroused Dustless's ambition. Just as he was about to crawl under the bedding and go back to sleep, young Master Ming's voice sounded first. "Don't move, it hurts," young Master Ming moaned softly, her pale face frowning subconsciously. "Let's go back to the Little Sage Manor and deal with Funyan first." Looking at the torn clothes on the floor, Dustless roughly glanced at them. They were all young Master Ming's clothes. She was also exhausted yesterday. There was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. Crack, crack, crack. First he stood up and stretched lazily, his bones cracking. Then Dustless walked around twice, and then put on the Confucian disciple's special jacket unhurriedly. In his mind he was thinking about how to deal with Yen Lu and Funyan. Although these two weren't as cunning as Zhang Liang, they were very smart. It wouldn't be good if they saw through him. Crick. Unexpectedly, just as he opened the door, a few slim and graceful figures were standing in the quiet corridor. "Why are you guys like ghosts? You don't make any sound when you walk," Dustless said unhappily. He looked up and saw Yueshan, Great Master Ming, Concubine Yen, and Yu Er appearing in the corridor without even greeting him. Big Brother Dustless was too engrossed, so he didn't notice us. "It's been almost 4 hours. Yu Er's small nose snorted and muttered. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing this, Dustless coughed awkwardly. He pretended to be serious and ordered, "In the future, without my permission, no one can deliberately approach my residence." Although the school of Yin Yang emphasizes the fusion of Yin and Yang into all things, there are still some aspects that need to be restrained. Otherwise, if this goes on for a long time, the body will be worn down sooner or later. The moon god glanced at Dustless and spoke plainly. "This is my private matter. It's not up to you to interfere. Also, my body is very healthy. You want to wear me down? Dream on." Dustless stared at Moon God angrily. What Moon God said made him lose face. She was obviously questioning his ability in some way. "What is it?" "The sun has just risen," Dustless asked doubtfully. The sun had just risen. At this time, most people were still sleeping. Everyone was very lazy at dawn, and Dustless was no exception. The second in command of the Confucian school, Yen Lu, is here. He said he wants to see Dong Huangtai. Great Si Ming said faintly. He looked at young Si Ming, who was sleeping peacefully in the room, and was quite jealous. After all, she was the first person to have sex with Dustless. Him? Dustless frowned and asked, "Did that guy say what he was here for?" "No, he didn't." This time it was Concubine Yen who spoke. As Dustless became the leader of the school of Yin Yang, there were no extra restrictions on her relationship with Yu Er and her mother. They could meet whenever they wanted to. Therefore, Concubine Yen was very loyal to Dustless. "Do we need to kill him?" He dared to enter the Mirage alone. "He has guts." Concubine Yen sneered. If it was outside the Mirage, it would be fine. However, Yen Lu had entered the Mirage alone, which was full of experts. It was obviously an early death. "Don't worry. I will take care of Funyan and Yen Lu. Moreover, they can die anywhere but in the Mirage." Dustless waved his hand. As a spy of the Confucian school, he could take care of these two people. "But he said he wants to see Dong Huangtai." Moon Goddess said hesitantly, Dong Huang Tai has left the school of Yin Yang. Where can we find him? This is very simple. Outsiders have never seen the real Dong Huang Tai, right? Dustless smiled mysteriously. This is true. Moon Goddess, Concubine Yen and Great Sea Ming looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Dong Huang Tai was always dressed in black and wore a gloomy mask. No one knew who he was and no one could see his real face. So, this mission can be completed by anyone. Anyway, no one has seen Dong Huang Tai. Anyone can be Dong Huang Tai. Wu Qin narrowed his eyes, a sly look flickering in them. Bring me the clothes that Dong Huang Tai usually wears. I will pretend to be Dong Huang Tai. Yen Lu dared to sneak into the Mirage alone. I want to see if he has eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's guts. On the Mirage, in the lobby that was usually used to receive guests. He is not here yet? Yen Lu paced back and forth. His calm state of mind was rippling. He had been waiting for 2 hours, but Dong Huang Tai still had not come to receive him. It was extremely rude to leave a guest aside and not ask about it, especially for a sect like the Confucian school that paid attention to etiquette. It could be seen that the school of Yin Yang looked down on the Confucian school. Isn't it a pleasure to have friends from afar? There is such a saying in the Confucian school, right? A strange sound wave spread out. Yen Lu looked up and saw a strange yet expectant figure. It was so quiet that it seemed to have come out of the void. There was not even a trace of fluctuation. It was like a dead man walking upright. Yen Lu could not sense his aura. Seeing this, Yen Lu was shocked. He said in disbelief, "This is Dong Huang Tai? He is indeed as unfathomable as the rumors say. I can't even see how he appeared." Chapter 1920. Senior. Yen Lu hurriedly cupped his fists and bowed apologetically. "Senior, please forgive me for my sudden visit. Don't worry about it. We will be on the same side in the future. If you have something to say, just say it." Dustless disguised himself as Dong Huang Tai spoke like an old man. "Why are you calling me senior?" Dustless was quite uncomfortable with this title. A few days ago, because he had become the third master of the Confucian school, he had helplessly called Yen Lu and Fun Yen senior brothers. Now this fellow had suddenly changed to calling him senior. This world was changing really quickly. "What is it?" Dustless disguised himself as Dong Huang Tai and Yen Lu sat down. Dustless looked at the latter expectantly, hoping that this fellow would give him a suitable answer. "To tell you the truth, I have come to discuss the marriage of the Confucian school's Zi Chen and your young master Ming." After thinking for a bit, Yen Lu said, "My senior brother Fun Yen said that the sooner the marriage, the better." "It's me for this matter?" Wu Chen's face was filled with disappointment. He originally thought that Yen Lu had brought some shocking news. It turned out that it was just this stupid matter of a marriage alliance. He immediately felt very bored and somewhat regretted coming to see Yen Lu. "Let's hold it in the next few days." Dustless casually said, "In the next few days I will order young Master Ming and Zi Chen to get married. From then on the two families will become one." That would be for the best. Yen Lu was overjoyed. He did not expect Dong Huang Tai to so readily agree to the conditions of the Confucian school. Thinking of Fun Yen's instructions, Yen Lu opened his mouth. Just as he was about to pull the relationship between the two families closer, Dustless disguised as Dong Huang Tai's voice came first. "To tell you the truth, just a while ago the original third master of the Confucian school suddenly came." Wu Chen suddenly said something shocking. His words stunned Yen Lu on the spot. He looked at Wu Chen with a head full of fog. "Zifang?" After being stunned for a few seconds, Yen Lu came back to his senses. He recalled Zhang Liang's background and the grudge between him and the Qin dynasty. His heart skipped a beat and he sighed inwardly. Could it be that Zifang launched a sneak attack on the school of Yin Yang? Looking at Dustless disguised as Dong Huang Tai, Yen Lu suddenly felt despair. "Look at how scared you are." Dustless stared at the nervous Yen Lu with a mocking look, then laughed in his heart. He pretended to be filled with killing intent and said, "That guy just sneakily attacked the guardian of the school of Yin Yang, Moon God." This. Dustless's sudden words caused Yen Lu's expression to change drastically. Perhaps the relationship between the Yin Yang school and the Confucian school would be destroyed because of Zhang Liang? "Senior, Zifang is young and ignorant. May I ask where he is? I will definitely teach him a lesson and give you a perfect answer." Yen Lu quickly spoke up for Zhang Liang and begged, "As for the injuries of the guardian of the moon god, the Confucian school is willing to take full responsibility. Seeing that the two factions are about to be connected by marriage, please just let it go. Of course. I still trust the Confucian school. However, Zhang Liang. Dustless's tone became slightly heavy. In the barren mountains west of Mulberry Sea, Zhang Liang is surrounded by the Yin-Yang school. I hope you can persuade him to turn back. Thank you, senior. Goodbye. Yen Lu left with a face full of gratitude. He left the Mirage without stopping and did not return to the Little Saint Manor. Instead, he went to the barren mountains west of Mulberry Sea City that Dustless said. When did Zhang Liang sneak attack the moon god? Why didn't I know? She was fine just now. Seeing Yen Lu leave anxiously, concubine Yen, who had rushed over, asked. Of course I made it up. Taking off the heavy prop that was Dong Huang Tai, Dustless smiled sinisterly. Unfortunately, Yen Lu will not meet Zhang Liang. He will die there forever. He tricked Yen Lu out of the city just to find a suitable place to kill him. Dustless did not have a good impression of Zhang Liang. He was insidious, hypocritical, and liked to play tricks. Yen Lu had helped Zhang Liang time and time again. In that case, he could not blame Dustless for being ruthless. Who are those people? Standing on the Mirage, Dustless could not help but frown as he looked at the soldiers of the Qin state walking on the street. Although they were all soldiers of the Qin state, their aura was different. These soldiers that he had never seen before were definitely the elites of the elites. You don't know? Concubine Yen looked at Dustless in surprise. After seeing that he did not seem to be lying, she said, Those are the Shadow Secret Guards, Ying Zheng's shadows. Their general is Zhang Han, Ying Zheng's trusted subordinate. I heard that he is loyal to the Qin state and will carry out any order. I see. No wonder I feel a sense of familiarity. It's Zhang Han. Dustless looked at the general on the horse. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Those who were stared at by Zhang Han could not help but have goosebumps. Zhang Han's strength is not bad. He can be considered an expert. His ability to solve cases is superb. I did not expect Ying Zheng to send him here. It seems like he values Shanghai a lot, Concubine Yen said. The one who should have a headache was the anti-Qin alliance. Zhang Han is loyal to the Qin state? That's a big mistake. Zhang Han is loyal to Ying Zheng. Wu Qin sneered. In history, Zhang Han was a person with both praise and blame. After Ying Zheng's death, the Qin state fell into an unprecedented turmoil. All of this was because Zhao Gao appointed Hu Hai, the second son of the Qin state, as the emperor. Under the tyrannical rule, all kinds of uprisings broke out. It was worth mentioning that the hegemon of Western Chu, Xiangyu, led his army to war with Zhang Han. During the Battle of Julu, the Qin army led by Zhang Han was defeated by the Chu army. Logically speaking, someone like Zhang Han, who was highly valued by Ying Zheng, should have died in battle to thank Ying Zheng. However, that was not the case. Zhang Han shamelessly submitted to Xiangyu and even brought along 200,000 surrendered Qin soldiers. Later on, Xiangyu was afraid that the surrendered Qin soldiers would revolt, so he displayed the ruthlessness of the hegemon of Western Chu and killed all 200,000 surrendered Qin soldiers. Because of this, Zhang Han was given the title of Traitor of Qin. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.